Have you ever wondered why chasing perfection leaves you exhausted and restless, while ancient Buddhist wisdom promises peace through embracing your deepest flaws? What if your greatest failures weren't roadblocks to enlightenment, but sacred doorways inviting you to awaken in ways you never imagined? In a world obsessed with flawless lives, discover how Buddhism teaches us to find true freedom, not by fixing ourselves, but by letting go of the illusion that we were ever broken. Embracing failure as sacred ground. The illusion of perfection and its roots. In the quiet hours of the night, when the mind refuses to rest, it's often the illusion of perfection that keeps us trapped in endless loops of self-doubt and regret. As the transcript reveals, we've been conditioned to believe that peace arrives only when everything is fixed, our lives neatly aligned, our flaws erased, our achievements stacked high like trophies. But this pursuit, far from bringing solace, amplifies our suffering, turning every misstep into a catastrophe. Buddhism, with its 2,500-year legacy of wisdom from monks and sages, challenges this deeply ingrained myth. It teaches that true freedom emerges not from controlling life, but from releasing the grip on the need to be flawless. The transcript opens with a stark truth. You've been lied to about peace. They told you it comes from fixing everything, from being perfect, from doing more, being more. This lie manifests in our daily lives as a relentless pressure, measuring worth by success and rest by productivity. We lie awake, wired despite exhaustion, replaying should-haves and what-ifs, because we've tied our identity to an unattainable ideal. Yet, as the teachings unfold, peace is found in letting go, in recognizing that thoughts of inadequacy are transient clouds, not the sky of our true nature. This illusion has roots in cultural and personal conditioning, where failure is equated with weakness or unworthiness. Society punishes imperfection, demanding visible progress and quick successes. As the transcript notes, we live in a culture that punishes imperfection. We feel pressure to succeed quickly, to make progress visibly. In this environment, mistakes become something to hide, fueling isolation and fear of judgment. Buddhism counters this by reframing failure as sacred, an integral part of the bodhicitta path, the commitment to awakening for oneself and all beings. Here, falling isn't a sign of being lost, but of learning to walk with eyes open. The bodhisattva, vowing to liberate all, isn't flawless but compassionate, using errors as tools for growth. This perspective shifts the narrative. What we call failure isn't an end, but a beginning of honesty. The transcript illustrates this through the story of the monk who erupts in anger after years of meditation, realizing peace isn't suppression but awareness. His humiliation becomes a turning point, showing that enlightenment isn't about never feeling but about honest presence with what arises. At the core of this illusion is the misunderstanding of dukkha, often translated as suffering, but encompassing the unsatisfactoriness of life, including the dissatisfaction of falling short. Buddhism's first noble truth declares dukkha not as a hidden shame but as the starting line. Buddhism doesn't begin with perfection. It begins with the honest confession that life is messy, that we struggle, and that this struggle is not a problem to fix, but a truth to understand. We hate failure because it seems to separate us, inviting judgment and unloved isolation. But this fear stems from anatta, the no fixed self principle. We are not our resumes, achievements, or errors, but unfolding processes. Clinging to a perfect self-image creates suffering. Releasing it births compassion. The transcript emphasizes that compassion arises not from getting everything right, but from seeing how easy it is to get it wrong. When you've been broken, you see others' pain more clearly. That's not failure, that's insight. Neuroscience aligns with this ancient wisdom, as the transcript points out. Through neuroplasticity, mindful awareness of mistakes forms new brain pathways, turning errors into transformation. Hiding mistakes makes them permanent. Acknowledging them rewires us. The bodhicitta path is radical because it vows to show up unprepared, flaws visible, not from shame, but love for the path. Failure isn't an obstacle, it's growth in disguise. The paramitas, or perfections, aren't Western-style flawlessness but crossing over, cultivated by noticing selfishness and choosing again. Right effort in the Noble Eightfold Path isn't trying harder with blame, but understanding how we try, returning gently when distracted. The Buddha's response to a sleepy student, gentle questions about self-care, exemplifies this non-judgmental tone. Failure isn't punished but held with care. Awakening, then, isn't becoming a perfect self, but seeing clearly, especially failures. Humility emerges, not as self-deprecation, but truthfulness, making room for learning and trustworthiness. Failure teaches patience, settling into presence, trusting the process even when slow. The Bodhisattva path is a widening circle, every stumble an offering. It connects us, showing humanity spreads compassion, as others see, if they can keep going, maybe I can too. Even the Buddha's journey, as Siddhartha, involved mistakes, starving himself, trying extremes, breaking false pride until truth remained. Tonight, thank your mistakes, their teachers softening regrets into lessons. You're not broken, you're breaking open, the sacred beginning. This illusion's roots run deep, but uprooting them starts with small acts, noticing the pressure, softening it with breath, reminding yourself that loose ends and flaws are okay. The transcript assures, you'll feel maybe for the first time in a long time that it's okay to rest, even with loose ends, even with flaws, even without having it all figured out. Peace isn't earned through perfection, it's claimed by letting go. As clouds pass, revealing the unchanging sky, so do thoughts of inadequacy fade when we stop clinging. In embracing failure as sacred, we shift from control to freedom, from exhaustion to rest. The journey isn't about arriving flawless, but walking honestly, one mindful step at a time. Buddhist stories of flawed practitioners. The Buddhist path is not paved with tales of flawless saints, but with stories of ordinary humans stumbling into wisdom through their imperfections. As the transcript underscores, in Buddhist stories, even the greatest practitioners were not immune to failure. These narratives, far from being erased, are preserved in the tradition to show that awakening doesn't demand perfection, it requires honest engagement with our flaws. The Bodhisattva, committed to liberating all beings, is not a figure of untouchable serenity, but one who makes mistakes, learns from them, and transforms them into compassion. These stories of flawed practitioners serve as mirrors, reflecting our own struggles and reminding us that failure is not a detour, but the very soil where insight grows. They teach us to meet our missteps, not with shame but with curiosity, turning each fall into a step toward awakening. Consider the tale of the monk from the transcript who, after years of solitary meditation, believed he had conquered anger. When another monk accidentally knocked over his bowl, his rage erupted like a storm, shattering his illusion of mastery. His humiliation wasn't the end, it was a turning point. As the transcript notes, he realized peace wasn't about suppression, but honest awareness. This moment of failure revealed a truth he couldn't see in years of quiet meditation. Peace isn't the absence of feeling, but the courage to face what arises. His anger, once a source of shame, became his teacher, guiding him to a deeper understanding of mindfulness. This story echoes a core Buddhist truth. Failure is sacred because it strips away pretense, forcing us to confront reality as it is, not as we wish it to be. Another iconic example is Angulimala, a figure from the Pali Canon whose story embodies redemption through imperfection. Once a feared bandit who killed to collect fingers as trophies, Angulimala's life was steeped in violence and delusion, yet when he encountered the Buddha, his intention to kill was met with unshakable presence. The Buddha didn't reject him for his past. Instead, he invited Angulimala to see his actions clearly. Moved by this compassion, Angulimala renounced his ways, became a monk, and walked the path to liberation. His story isn't about erasing his flaws, but transforming them. As the transcript suggests, the Bodhisattva makes mistakes, but doesn't turn away from them. The Bodhisattva uses them. Angulimala's violent past didn't disqualify him. It became the raw material for his compassion, proving that even the gravest errors can lead to profound awakening when met with honesty. Then there's Devadatta, often cast as the Buddha's adversary, whose flaws highlight the complexity of human intention. Devadatta, a monk and cousin of the Buddha, sought power and prestige, even attempting to split the Sangha and harm the Buddha. His actions were rooted in envy and pride, yet Buddhist texts don't reduce him to a villain. Some traditions suggest that despite his failures, Devadatta's challenges pushed the Buddha to clarify the Dharma, indirectly serving the path. His story reminds us that even those who falter significantly remain part of the interdependent web of awakening. As the transcript states, wisdom and brokenness often live side by side. Devadatta's flaws, while causing harm, also underscore that no one is outside the potential for growth, even if it unfolds across lifetimes. The Mahayana tradition offers the story of Vasumitra, a bodhisattva who, as a courtesan, used her perceived impurity to guide others toward liberation. Her beauty and charm drew people in, but her teachings led them beyond attachment to the Dharma. Vasumitra's life defied conventional morality, yet her actions were rooted in skillful means, showing that awakening doesn't conform to societal ideals of perfection. Her story challenges us to question what we label as failure. As the transcript notes, what if everything you've been calling failure wasn't wrong, but sacred? Vasumitra's unconventional path illustrates that flaws, when met with intention, become vehicles for compassion, reaching those who might never enter a monastery. These stories converge on a shared truth. Failure is not an obstacle but a gateway. The monk's anger, Angulimala's violence, Devadatta's ambition, and Vasumitra's defiance of norms all reveal that awakening arises from engaging with imperfection, not avoiding it. The transcript emphasizes, in Buddhism, this is not just acceptable, it is sacred. This perspective dismantles the cultural narrative that mistakes diminish us. Instead, they connect us to others, as the transcript observes. When a bodhisattva stumbles, they don't pretend they didn't fall. They turn the fall into a gesture of care. Each practitioner's failure became a teaching, not because they achieved perfection, but because they faced their humanity with courage. This resonates with the bodhicitta path, where the vow to awaken for all beings embraces imperfection as wisdom taking shape. The transcript explains, in the bodhicitta path, failure isn't weakness, it's wisdom taking shape. These practitioners didn't erase their flaws, they integrated them, learning to walk with eyes open. Their stories invite us to do the same, to see our own failures, not as proof of unworthiness but as moments of learning. When we judge ourselves for falling short, we reinforce the illusion of a fixed self, as per anatta. But when we meet our mistakes with mindfulness, as the transcript suggests, we rewire our brains through neuroplasticity, turning errors into transformation. These tales also highlight humility, not as self-deprecation but as truthfulness. The monk's humility in facing his anger, Angulimala's surrender to the Buddha's compassion, Devadatta's complex role, and Vasumitra's fearless authenticity all embody this. As the transcript notes, your humility makes you trustworthy. By owning their imperfections, these practitioners became bridges for others, showing that the path is accessible to all, not just the flawless. This connects to the transcript's point. Others look at you and think, if they can keep going with all that, maybe I can too. Our failures, when shared honestly, foster compassion, creating a ripple effect of understanding. In daily life, these stories remind us that our own stumbles, missed deadlines, harsh words, moments of doubt are not dead ends. Like the monk, we can let anger reveal where we've clung to illusions. Like Angulimala, we can transform past regrets into acts of kindness. Like Devadatta, we can recognize that even our worst impulses are part of a larger web, not defining us. And like Vasumitra, we can embrace our unconventional paths as valid. The transcript's wisdom holds. Failure isn't punished, it's held. By holding our flaws with care, we cultivate patience, not the restless waiting for improvement, but the steady trust in the process, as the bodhisattva path teaches a circle that widens with every honest step. Tonight, as you lie in bed, let these stories soften the grip of self-judgment. Your mistakes are not failures, but teachers, echoing the transcript's promise. You are not broken, you are breaking open. The flawed practitioners of Buddhist law show us that every fall is an invitation to return, to breathe, to begin again. Their imperfections didn't disqualify them, they shaped their wisdom. Yours can too. The path isn't about never falling, but about rising with awareness, turning each stumble into a gesture of care for yourself and others. Dukkha as the starting line for awakening. In the Buddhist tradition, the path to liberation doesn't begin with perfection or serenity. It starts with an unflinching acknowledgement of life's inherent messiness, encapsulated in the concept of dukkha. As the transcript declares, Buddhism doesn't begin with perfection. It begins with the honest confession that life is messy, that we struggle, and that this struggle is not a problem to fix, but a truth to understand. Often translated as suffering, dukkha is far richer, encompassing the subtle dissatisfaction that lingers even in moments of joy, the unease of falling short, and the friction of life not matching our expectations. Far from being a flaw to overcome, dukkha is the first noble truth, the starting line of awakening, inviting us to see our struggles not as failures, but as sacred truths that point toward freedom. By embracing dukkha as the foundation of practice, we shift from chasing an unattainable ideal of flawlessness to cultivating awareness that transforms imperfection into insight. The transcript frames dukkha as more than suffering. It's the unsatisfactoriness that arises when we measure ourselves against an idealized version of life. This dissatisfaction surfaces in moments of failure, when we miss a goal, snap in anger, or lie awake replaying mistakes. We interpret these as proof of personal inadequacy, believing, as the transcript notes, if we get it wrong, we'll be judged, left behind, unloved. This fear stems from the illusion that our worth depends on perfection, a cultural conditioning that equates mistakes with separation. Yet, Buddhism teaches that dukkha is universal, not a personal failing. It's the shared human experience of longing for things to be different, of resisting life's inevitable imperfections. The transcript emphasizes, dukkha is the first noble truth. It's not hidden. It's the starting line. This truth invites us to stop hiding from our struggles and instead meet them with honesty, recognizing that they are not obstacles but entry points to wisdom. This perspective is revolutionary because it reframes failure as an invitation rather than a verdict. When we feel the sting of dukkha, the regret of a harsh word, the anxiety of an uncertain future, or the weight of unmet expectations, we're conditioned to see it as something to fix. But the Buddha taught that trying to erase dukkha through control only deepens it. Instead, the path begins with acknowledging it. Life is messy, and that messiness is not a problem, but a truth to understand. The transcript illustrates this with the Bodhisattva path, where failure is wisdom taking shape. For example, when we fall short, the impulse is to blame ourselves. But Buddhism asks us to pause and observe, what is this dissatisfaction revealing? Perhaps it's attachment to an outcome, fear of judgment, or a belief in a fixed self, anatta. By seeing dukkha clearly, we begin to loosen its grip, not by erasing it but by understanding its impermanent nature. The power of dukkha as a starting point lies in its universality, which dissolves the isolation we feel in failure. The transcript states, why do we hate failure so much? Because we believe it separates us from others. Yet, dukkha reveals that everyone struggles, whether it's the monk erupting in anger or the layperson wrestling with self-doubt. This shared experience connects us. As the transcript notes, when you've been broken, you see others' pain more clearly. That's not failure, that's insight. Consider the story of the Buddha himself, who, as Siddhartha, faced dukkha in the form of existential despair before his awakening. His encounters with aging, illness, and death weren't failures, but catalysts, propelling him toward the path. Our own moments of dukkha, a missed opportunity, a broken relationship, are similarly catalytic when met with mindfulness. They become the mud in which the lotus of awakening grows, as the transcript's later metaphor suggests. Mindfulness transforms dukkha from a burden into a teacher. The transcript highlights, When the Buddha said mindfulness is the path to the deathless, he wasn't being metaphorical. Mindfulness turns mistakes into transformation. By observing dukkha without judgment, we create new neural pathways, as neuroscience confirms through neuroplasticity. When we notice the pain of falling short, say, the guilt of a heated argument, and hold it with awareness rather than shame, we rewire our response. Instead of spiraling into self-criticism, I should have known better, we ask, what is this teaching me? Perhaps it reveals a need for patience or a hidden expectation. This shift, as the transcript suggests, is the essence of right effort in the Noble Eightfold Path, not pushing harder with blame, but understanding how we try. Each moment of dukkha becomes a bell of mindfulness, ringing, wake up, try again. This approach also cultivates compassion, both for ourselves and others. When we see dukkha as universal, we stop viewing our struggles as personal defects. The transcript notes, compassion is born not from getting everything right, but from seeing how easy it is to get it wrong. When we feel inadequate, we can recall that others feel the same, fostering a sense of shared humanity. For instance, a parent snapping at their child might feel like a failure, but recognizing this as dukkha, a universal moment of imperfection, allows them to respond with kindness, apologizing, reflecting, and returning to presence. This mirrors the Buddha's gentle response to the sleepy meditator, asking, are you eating enough? Are you sleeping at night? Are you being kind to yourself? Such care transforms dukkha into a bridge, connecting us to others through shared vulnerability. The bodhicitta path reinforces this, positioning dukkha as the ground for awakening for all beings. A bodhisattva doesn't aim to eliminate dukkha, but to meet it with wisdom, using their own struggles to understand others. The transcript's example of the bodhisattva stumbling and saying, I know what that feels like, let me walk beside you, illustrates this. Our moments of dukkha, feeling overwhelmed, failing to meet expectations, become opportunities to empathize with others' pain. This isn't about achieving a flawless state, but about showing up with flaws in full view. As the transcript states, it's not about arriving at enlightenment, it's about walking toward it with your flaws in full view. This walk is slow, patient, and humble, trusting that each encounter with dukkha deepens our capacity for love. Ultimately, dukkha as the starting line liberates us from the illusion that peace requires perfection. The transcript assures, you don't have to be perfect to be worthy of peace. When we accept that struggle is inherent, we stop fighting it and start learning from it. Every pang of dissatisfaction, whether from a missed deadline or a personal regret, becomes a moment to pause, breathe, and observe. This practice doesn't erase dukkha, but changes our relationship to it. As the transcript suggests, you are not broken, you are breaking open. Tonight, as dukkha whispers of your imperfections, thank it. It's not your enemy, but your guide, pointing to the truth that awakening begins exactly where you are, in the mess, in the struggle, in the sacred imperfection of being human. Compassion, born from brokenness. The Buddhist path reveals a profound truth. Our deepest compassion often arises not from our triumphs, but from our moments of brokenness. As the transcript eloquently states, compassion is born not from getting everything right, but from seeing how easy it is to get it wrong. When we stumble, whether through a harsh word, a missed opportunity, or a quiet regret, we encounter the raw vulnerability of being human. Far from isolating us, these moments of failure connect us to others, forging a bridge of empathy that spans the shared experience of imperfection. In Buddhism, this connection is sacred, transforming our cracks into pathways for understanding and care. By embracing our brokenness, we cultivate a compassion that is not performative but authentic, rooted in the honest recognition that everyone struggles, everyone falls, and everyone longs to be seen. This idea is central to the bodhicitta path, where the vow to awaken for all beings is fueled by our own encounters with dukkha, the universal unsatisfactoriness of life. The transcript illustrates this vividly. When you've been broken, you see others' pain more clearly. That's not failure, that's insight. Consider a moment when you felt inadequate, perhaps snapping at a loved one in frustration or failing to meet a personal goal. The instinct is to hide this shame, to bury it beneath a facade of competence. But Buddhism invites us to pause and notice. This pain, this sense of falling short, is not unique. It's the same ache others feel when they falter. The Bodhisattva, stumbling yet continuing, whispers, "I know what that feels like. Let me walk beside you." This gesture of care transforms failure into a shared humanity, where our wounds become the source of our ability to connect. The story of the monk who erupted in anger over a spilled bowl, as shared in the transcript, exemplifies this. His rage humiliated him, not because he failed to be peaceful, but because he believed peace meant never feeling anger. Yet, his moment of brokenness became a turning point. His so-called failure showed him the path he couldn't see before. By facing his anger with awareness, he uncovered a deeper truth. Peace arises from honest presence, not suppression. This insight allowed him to meet others' anger with compassion, recognizing it as a universal struggle rather than a personal flaw. Similarly, when we feel the sting of our own mistakes, perhaps a careless remark that hurt a friend, we can choose to hide or to reflect. Reflection reveals that our pain mirrors others, fostering a compassion that says, "I've been there too." This is not pity, but a profound recognition of shared vulnerability. Buddhism teaches that this compassion is not accidental but cultivated through mindfulness, which, as the transcript notes, turns mistakes into transformation. Neuroscience supports this through neuroplasticity. When we observe our failures without judgment, we rewire our brains, creating pathways for empathy. For instance, imagine losing your temper during a stressful day. Instead of spiraling into self-criticism, "I'm a terrible person," mindfulness invites you to notice the anger, breathe, and ask, "What's beneath this?" Perhaps it's exhaustion or fear of failure. This awareness softens the self-blame, allowing you to extend the same understanding to others, a colleague who snaps, a partner who withdraws. The transcript's insight, "The only thing that makes a mistake permanent is hiding it," underscores this. Hiding isolates, but acknowledging connects, turning personal brokenness into communal compassion. The bodhicitta path amplifies this, emphasizing that our struggles are not private, but part of a collective tapestry. The transcript describes the bodhisattva's vow as a commitment to show up even when you don't look ready, flaws in full view. This vulnerability is powerful because it invites others to do the same. When we admit our imperfections, say, apologizing for a moment of impatience, we create space for others to be imperfect too. This mirrors the Buddha's response to the sleepy meditator, asking gentle questions like, "Are you being kind to yourself?" rather than scolding. Such care models a compassion that doesn't demand perfection but embraces humanity. In daily life, this might look like listening to a friend's struggles without fixing them, recognizing their pain as an echo of your own, and offering presence instead of solutions. This compassion extends beyond individuals to the collective, dissolving the illusion of separation taught by anatta, no fixed self. The transcript explains, "You are not your resume, your achievements, or your past errors. You are unfolding moment by moment. When we see ourselves as fluid processes, not fixed failures, we realize others are too. A co-worker's sharp tone, a stranger's impatience, these aren't signs of their essence, but moments shaped by unseen conditions." This understanding, rooted in dukkha's universality, fosters a compassion that doesn't judge but observes, asking, what might they be carrying? For example, when someone cuts you off in traffic, the impulse to judge, "What a jerk," can shift to curiosity. Maybe they're rushing to an emergency. This shift doesn't excuse harm but reframes it, creating space for empathy over reactivity. The transcript's metaphor of the bodhisattva's stumble as a gesture of care highlights how brokenness fosters connection. When we share our struggles, perhaps admitting to a colleague, "I messed up that project and I'm learning from it," we invite others to drop their masks. This vulnerability, as the transcript notes, makes you trustworthy, signaling that imperfection is safe. In a world that punishes flaws, this is radical. Showing your humanity inspires others to do the same, creating a ripple effect of compassion. The Buddha's own journey as Siddhartha reinforces this. His failures, starving himself, chasing extremes, weren't erased, but integrated, breaking the pride that obscured truth. As the transcript states, that's the gift of noble failure. It breaks what never belonged to you in the first place. Compassion born from brokenness also teaches patience, not the restless waiting for improvement, but a steady trust in the process. The transcript describes this as settling in, staying present, and trusting the process even when it's slow. When we forgive ourselves for a mistake, like forgetting an important task, we learn to extend that patience to others. A friend who forgets a promise, a child who struggles to learn. This patience is the fruit of seeing dukkha as a shared teacher, not a personal defect. It allows us to walk beside others, not ahead or above, but as equals in imperfection. The transcript's promise rings true. Others look at you and think, if they can keep going with all that, maybe I can too. Tonight, as you reflect on your own moments of brokenness, let them be your teachers. That argument you regret, that goal you didn't meet, they're not failures but invitations to compassion. As the transcript assures, you are not broken, you are breaking open. By embracing your cracks, you open your heart to others, seeing their struggles as mirrors of your own. This is the sacred ground of the bodhicitta path, where every stumble becomes a step toward love, not just for yourself, but for all beings. Your brokenness is not a flaw, it's the source of your deepest connection, the wellspring of a compassion that holds the world. Mindfulness, transforming mistakes into growth. In the Buddhist tradition, mistakes are not dead ends, but fertile ground for growth, and mindfulness is the tool that transforms them. As the transcript powerfully asserts, when the Buddha said mindfulness is the path to the deathless, He wasn't being metaphorical. Mindfulness turns mistakes into transformation. Far from being a barrier, each misstep, whether a lapse in patience, a poorly chosen word, or a moment of distraction, becomes a moment of awakening when met with mindful awareness. This practice doesn't erase errors, but reframes them, turning what we perceive as failures into opportunities for insight, compassion, and change. By cultivating mindfulness, we learn to see our mistakes not as proof of our inadequacy, but as teachers guiding us toward a deeper understanding of ourselves and the path to liberation. Mindfulness, in its essence, is the act of being fully present with what is, without judgment or resistance. The transcript emphasizes this through the lens of the Noble Eightfold Path's right effort, which is not about trying harder, it's about understanding how you try. When we make a mistake, say, forgetting an important commitment or reacting in anger, the instinct is to spiral into self-criticism, believing we've failed the path. But Buddhism teaches that the mistake itself is not the problem, it's our reaction to it. The transcript illustrates this with the example of a meditator drifting into distraction. The practice isn't ruined. The practice is to notice the drift and return. This return is the heartbeat of mindfulness, transforming a moment of failure into a moment of growth. Each time we notice we've wandered, whether in meditation or life, and gently bring ourselves back, we strengthen our capacity for awareness. Consider a common scenario. You raise your voice in a heated moment, only to regret it later. The cultural impulse is to hide this mistake or berate yourself. I should know better. But mindfulness invites a different response. Pause, breathe, and observe the regret without adding layers of shame. The transcript notes, the only thing that makes a mistake permanent is hiding it. By acknowledging the mistake, perhaps saying to yourself, I was angry, and that's okay. What can I learn? You open a space for transformation. This act of noticing rewires the brain, as the transcript's reference to neuroplasticity confirms. Awareness isn't just calming, it's rewiring. Each mindful moment creates new neural pathways, shifting us from reactive patterns to intentional responses. Over time, this practice turns a single mistake into a lesson in patience, self-compassion, or boundary setting. The power of mindfulness lies in its ability to make every mistake a bell of awakening. The transcript describes this vividly. Failure then becomes the bell of mindfulness, each misstep saying, wake up, try again. This is evident in the story of the sleepy meditator who, ashamed of dozing off, was met with the Buddha's gentle questions. Are you eating enough? Are you sleeping at night? Are you being kind to yourself? This response highlights a core Buddhist principle. Mistakes are not punished, but held with care. When we apply this to our lives, a missed deadline or a moment of impatience becomes an opportunity to ask, what's happening here? Perhaps the missed deadline reveals overcommitment. Perhaps the impatience signals unmet needs. Mindfulness doesn't erase the mistake, but illuminates its causes, guiding us toward wiser choices. This transformation is particularly potent on the bodhicitta path, where mistakes are not personal failings, but opportunities to deepen compassion for all beings. The transcript states, in the bodhicitta path, failure isn't weakness, it's wisdom taking shape. When we mindfully engage with our errors, we see their universality. Our struggles mirror those of others. For example, if you snap at a colleague and, through mindfulness, recognize it stemmed from stress, you begin to see others' sharp words in a new light. This insight fosters compassion, as the transcript notes. When a bodhisattva stumbles, they don't pretend they didn't fall. They turn the fall into a gesture of care. By sharing our lessons, perhaps apologizing and explaining, "I was overwhelmed, and I'm working on it," we create space for others to be imperfect, building trust and connection. The paramitas, or perfections, further illustrate how mindfulness transforms mistakes. The transcript explains, the word paramita doesn't mean perfection in the Western sense. It means crossing over like a boat crossing a river. Take generosity. We don't perfect it by never being selfish, but by noticing selfishness and choosing differently. If you catch yourself withholding kindness out of resentment, mindfulness allows you to pause, see the resentment, and choose a generous act instead, perhaps offering a kind word despite your mood. This choice, born of awareness, is the crossing over, a small but profound shift toward liberation. Each mindful return from a mistake strengthens this muscle, making growth not a destination but a process of continual redirection. Mindfulness also cultivates humility, which the transcript describes as not self-deprecation, but truthfulness. When we stop hiding our mistakes, we make room for learning. Admitting to a friend, "I was wrong to dismiss your idea," requires humility, but it opens the door to deeper connection. This truthfulness, as the transcript suggests, makes you trustworthy, inviting others to show their own flaws. The Buddha's own journey as Siddhartha exemplifies this. His mistakes, starving himself, chasing ascetic extremes, were met with mindful reflection, breaking the illusions that obscured truth. As the transcript notes, that's the gift of noble failure. It breaks what never belonged to you in the first place. In daily life, mindfulness transforms mistakes into growth through small, consistent acts. When you forget to meditate or speak out of turn, instead of judging yourself, notice the moment. Breathe. Ask, "What's here?" This practice doesn't demand perfection, but presence. The transcript assures, you stop trying to hide, you stop wearing masks, you become real. Over time, these moments accumulate, reshaping how you relate to yourself and others. A mistake that once triggered shame, like forgetting a loved one's birthday, becomes a chance to repair with care, perhaps through a heartfelt apology or a thoughtful gesture. This repair is growth, not because it erases the error, but because it deepens your capacity for connection. Tonight, as your mind replays your mistakes, let mindfulness be your guide. The transcript's promise holds, you are not broken, you are breaking open. Each error is a teacher, ringing the bell of awareness. That harsh word, that missed goal, they're not failures, but invitations to return, to breathe, to learn. By meeting them with mindfulness, you transform them into growth, not through force, but through presence. The path isn't about never erring, but about seeing clearly when you do, returning with kindness, and trusting that each step, however small, is enough. Your mistakes are not the end. They are the sacred ground where wisdom blooms. The kintsugi of the mind, honoring scars, repairing the heart with golden cracks. In the Zen tradition, the art of kintsugi, repairing broken pottery with gold, offers a profound metaphor for healing the heart. As the transcript beautifully illustrates, instead of hiding the damage, the cracks are honored, traced with care, and made more beautiful than before. Our emotional scars, often buried under shame or denial, are not flaws to erase but sacred marks of our journey, capable of becoming more radiant when met with mindful presence. Kintsugi teaches us that transformation doesn't mean returning to an unbroken state, but embracing our wounds as integral to our wholeness. By applying this principle to the mind, we learn to treat our pain, grief, anxiety, regret not as stains to scrub away but as textures to honor, weaving them into the tapestry of our being with compassion and awareness. The transcript emphasizes, this is not just about objects, it is about the heart. Emotional scars, often buried and silenced, are the very places where transformation can live. In our lives, we carry scars from moments we label as failures, a relationship that ended, a dream unfulfilled, a moment of vulnerability exposed. The instinct is to hide these cracks, fearing they make us less worthy. Yet, Zen invites us to see them differently, as the transcript suggests. What would it mean if my anxiety, my heartbreak, my grief were not stains to scrub out, but textures to honor? Imagine a time you felt broken, perhaps after a betrayal or a personal mistake. Instead of rushing to fix the pain, Kintsugi asks you to sit with it, to trace its edges with care, to see its beauty as part of your story. This shift transforms shame into pride, not in the pain itself, but in the resilience it reveals. This practice begins with presence, not perfection. The transcript notes, Zen does not ask you to be unbroken, it asks you to meet your wounds with full presence, to stop waiting until you're healed enough to live fully. For example, if you carry the scar of a harsh argument, mindfulness invites you to feel the lingering regret without rewriting it. You might sit quietly, breathe, and notice the tightness in your chest, asking, what does this wound want to say? Perhaps it reveals a need for forgiveness or a fear of disconnection. By staying with the pain, as the transcript advises, not numbing it, not rewriting it, you allow it to become a golden seam, a marker of growth rather than a flaw. This presence mirrors Kintsugi's careful application of gold, honoring the crack without forcing it to disappear. The neuroscience of mindfulness, referenced in the transcript, supports this transformation. Awareness isn't just calming, it's rewiring. When we meet emotional scars with non-judgmental attention, we create new neural pathways, softening the brain's habit of self-criticism. For instance, if you're haunted by a past failure like a career setback, mindfully observing the associated guilt can reframe it as a lesson in resilience. Over time, this practice shifts the scar from a source of shame to a symbol of strength, much like Kintsugi's golden lines make a broken bowl more beautiful. The transcript's wisdom holds, the golden lines don't appear after you fix yourself, they appear when you allow your pain to be seen. This seeing is not passive, it's an active choice to hold your wounds with care, letting them shine as part of your humanity. Kintsugi also aligns with the Zen concept of wabi-sabi, the appreciation of imperfection and transience, which the transcript explores. Zen invites you to drop the search for the flawless, to let softness replace striving. A scar, like a wabi-sabi tea bowl with its irregular glaze, is beautiful because it tells a story. When you view your emotional scars, say, the lingering grief of a lost loved one through this lens, they become not defects but evidence of a life fully lived. You might reflect on how that grief deepened your capacity to love, making it a golden crack rather than a flaw. This perspective, as the transcript suggests, is deep seeing, where your unevenness is part of your humanity. By honoring your scars, you cultivate a tenderness that extends to others, recognizing their wounds as part of their beauty too. The bodhicitta path reinforces this, encouraging us to use our scars for the benefit of all beings. The transcript's image of the bodhisattva stumbling and offering, "I know what that feels like, let me walk beside you," applies here. Your scars, perhaps the pain of rejection or self-doubt, become bridges to others' suffering. When you share a vulnerable moment, like admitting to a friend, "I still struggle with that loss," you create space for them to share their own cracks. This vulnerability, as the transcript notes, makes you trustworthy, fostering a compassion born from shared imperfection. The Buddha's own scars, his struggles as Siddhartha, from abandoning his family to chasing ascetic extremes, became the foundation of his teachings, showing that even the greatest wisdom arises from brokenness. In daily life, kintsugi of the mind means meeting emotional pain with gentle curiosity. The transcript advises, pain becomes meaningful when it is witnessed without rejection. If anxiety arises before a big decision, instead of pushing it away, you might sit with it, noticing its texture, racing thoughts, a tight throat, and ask, "What are you protecting me from?" This inquiry, rooted in mindfulness, turns the scar into a teacher, revealing fears of failure or judgment. Over time, these moments of presence accumulate, as the transcript's reference to neuroplasticity suggests, reshaping how you relate to pain. You begin to see scars not as wounds to heal, but as stories to carry with pride, each one a golden thread in the fabric of your awakening. This practice also cultivates patience, as the transcript emphasizes, healing that lasts is slow, honest, and humble. Kintsugi doesn't rush the repair of a broken bowl, just as you can't rush the integration of emotional scars. If you're grappling with self-doubt, for instance, forcing positivity, "I should be over this," only deepens the pain. Instead, mindfulness invites you to say, "This still matters to me, let me treat it with care." This patience, as the transcript notes, respects the timeline of the body, the nervous system, the soul. Each mindful encounter with a scar, whether through meditation, journaling, or a quiet breath, adds a layer of gold, making the heart not only whole but radiant. Tonight, as you reflect on your scars, those moments of heartbreak, failure, or shame, see them as kintsugi's golden cracks. The transcript assures, you are not a broken bowl waiting to be glued together. You are a living work of art in progress. Each scar is a stroke of resilience, a mark of your courage to live fully. By meeting them with presence, you transform pain into beauty, not by erasing it, but by honoring it. This is the kintsugi of the mind, a heart that shines not in spite of its cracks, but because of them, a testament to the sacred art of being human. Wabi-sabi, beauty in imperfection and transience. The Zen concept of wabi-sabi invites us to find beauty in the imperfect, the transient, and the incomplete, offering a radical antidote to a world obsessed with flawless permanence. As the transcript articulates, wabi-sabi reflects appreciating the imperfect, the transient, the incomplete. This isn't just about aesthetics. It's about how we live. In a culture that glorifies polished surfaces and eternal youth, Wabi-sabi teaches us to embrace the cracks, the wear, and the fleeting nature of life as integral to its beauty. Our emotional scars, fleeting joys, and unfinished dreams are not flaws to overcome, but textures that make us human. By adopting this perspective, we shift from striving for an unattainable ideal to softening into a life where imperfection and transience become sacred, guiding us toward a deeper, more authentic presence. Wabi-sabi finds beauty in what is weathered and ephemeral, like a cracked teacup or a fading autumn leaf. The transcript captures this ethos. Zen invites you to drop the search for the flawless, a flawless body, a flawless past, flawless control. Consider the emotional weight of a past regret, perhaps a friendship that faded or a goal left unachieved. Society urges us to erase these marks, to present a perfect self. But wabi-sabi asks us to see them as beautiful, not because they're ideal, but because they tell the story of a life lived. That faded friendship, like a wabi-sabi bowl with its uneven glaze, carries the beauty of shared moments, even if they've passed. By honoring its impermanence, we release the need to rewrite the past, finding peace in its transient truth. This perspective transforms how we relate to our inner world. The transcript notes, most people have been taught to chase the flawless, but this search exhausts the soul. When we feel anxious or inadequate, say, during a moment of self-doubt before a presentation, our instinct is to suppress it, to strive for flawless confidence. But wabi-sabi invites us to sit with the anxiety, to notice its fleeting nature, like clouds passing through the sky. In meditation, you might observe the racing thoughts, the tight chest, and instead of judging them as wrong, recognize their impermanence. This is here now, and it will pass. This aligns with the transcript's call to let softness replace striving, allowing the imperfect moment to be part of your humanity rather than a problem to fix. The transient nature of wabi-sabi also echoes the Buddhist principle of impermanence, anicca, which teaches that all things arise and pass away. The transcript's reference to mono no aware, the bittersweet awareness of life's fleetingness, complements this. Nothing stays fixed. Not your grief, not your guilt, not your loneliness. When we cling to a static idea of ourselves, perhaps a need to always be strong, we suffer. But wabi-sabi invites us to embrace the flow. For instance, if you're grieving a loss, the pain feels solid, eternal. Yet, sitting mindfully with it, you notice its ebbs and flows. Moments of sharp sorrow soften into quiet tenderness. This impermanence, as wabi-sabi teaches, is not a loss but a beauty, a reminder that even pain is part of life's unfolding. Mindfulness amplifies this, turning transient imperfections into opportunities for growth. The transcript's insight on neuroplasticity. Awareness isn't just calming, it's rewiring, shows how observing imperfection without judgment reshapes our brain. When you feel inadequate for forgetting an important task, instead of spiraling into self-criticism, wabi-sabi encourages you to notice the feeling as a passing wave. You might journal, "I forgot, and that's okay. It's a moment, not my identity." This practice, repeated over time, builds new neural pathways, softening the habit of perfectionism. The transcript's wisdom holds. You begin to ask, what would it mean if my anxiety, my heartbreak, my grief were not stains to scrub out, but textures to honor? These textures, like wabi, Sabi's weathered surfaces become beautiful in their honesty. The bodhicitta path integrates wabi-sabi by encouraging us to share our imperfections for the benefit of others. The transcript's image of the bodhisattva's stumble, "I know what that feels like. Let me walk beside you," reflects this. When you embrace your own transience, like a moment of vulnerability shared with a friend, "I'm struggling with this too," you create space for their imperfections. This vulnerability, as the transcript notes, makes you trustworthy, fostering a compassion rooted in shared impermanence. For example, admitting to a colleague, "I didn't handle that meeting well, but I'm learning," invites them to drop their own facade, building a connection that wabi-sabi celebrates, not polished, but real. Wabi-sabi also teaches us to find beauty in the incomplete. The transcript emphasizes, Zen does not see emotional pain as a failure. It sees it as part of the pattern, a necessary element in the artwork of being human. An unfinished project, a half-healed wound, or an unresolved conflict isn't a failure, but a work in progress, like a wabi-sabi garden with its asymmetrical stones. If you're working through self-doubt, wabi-sabi invites you to honor the process without rushing to completion. You might meditate, noticing the doubt's texture, its weight, its fleetingness, and say, "This is part of me now, and it's okay." This acceptance, as the transcript suggests, is deep seeing, where each scar becomes a stroke in a painting that is still unfolding. In daily life, wabi-sabi manifests in small acts of presence. The transcript advises, you stop chasing the illusion of being untouched by life. When you spill coffee on your shirt before a big day, instead of seeing it as a flaw, smile at the imperfection, a reminder of life's unpredictability. Or when a conversation ends awkwardly, rather than replaying it with regret, recognize its transience. It's a moment, not a verdict. These acts align with the transcript's call to let your unevenness be part of your humanity, cultivating a gentleness that extends to others. Seeing a friend's impatience or a stranger's mistake through wabi-sabi's lens, you offer patience, knowing their flaws, like yours, are fleeting and beautiful. This practice requires patience, as the transcript notes. Healing that lasts is slow, honest, and humble. Wabi-sabi doesn't demand a flawless outcome, but a willingness to live with what is. The Buddha's own journey reflects this. His years of asceticism, marked by hunger and struggle, were imperfect yet essential, leading to the middle way. As the transcript states, every failure broke something false until only truth remained. Your own imperfections, your doubts, your fleeting sorrows are similarly sacred, shaping a heart that finds beauty in the transient. Tonight, as you rest, let wabi-sabi guide you. Your cracks, your fleeting pains, are not flaws but strokes of beauty, painting a life that shines in its impermanence. Staying present with emotional wounds. The Zen practice of staying present with emotional wounds is a cornerstone of transforming pain into wisdom, embodying the kintsugi metaphor of honoring brokenness with gold. As the transcript emphasizes, Zen does not ask you to be unbroken. It asks you to meet your wounds with full presence, to stop waiting until you're healed enough to live fully. Emotional wounds, grief, shame, anxiety are often met with resistance or avoidance, as we fear their intensity or judge them as flaws. Yet, Zen teaches that true healing begins when we sit with these wounds, neither numbing nor rewriting them, but witnessing them with gentle awareness. By staying present, we allow our pain to become a teacher, revealing truths about our deepest needs and guiding us toward a heart that is not fixed, but whole in its vulnerability. The transcripts call to stay with the ache without numbing it, to stay with yourself even when it hurts, especially when it hurts, is a radical invitation. Consider a wound like the lingering shame of a past mistake, perhaps a time you let someone down. The instinct is to push it away, to distract with busyness, or cover it with forced positivity. But Zen asks you to pause, to breathe, and to feel the texture of that shame, the heat in your cheeks, the knot in your stomach. This act of staying present, as the transcript notes, is the beginning of gold. For example, in meditation, you might notice the shame arise as a memory. Instead of spiraling into self-criticism, "I'm such a failure," you observe it like a cloud passing through the sky, asking, "What is this teaching me?" Perhaps it reveals a need for self-forgiveness or a fear of rejection. This presence transforms the wound from a source of suffering into a pathway to insight. Mindfulness is the key to this practice, aligning with the transcript's insight. Awareness isn't just calming, it's rewiring. Neuroscience confirms that meeting emotional pain with non-judgmental attention creates new neural pathways, softening habitual reactions like avoidance or shame. When you feel the sting of grief, say, after losing a loved one, sitting with it mindfully might mean noticing the tears, the heaviness, without labeling them as wrong. You might whisper to yourself, "This hurts, and I'm here with it." Over time, this practice, as the transcript suggests, reshapes how you relate to pain. The grief doesn't vanish, but its meaning shifts from a wound that isolates to one that deepens your capacity for love. The transcript's wisdom holds. Pain becomes meaningful when it is witnessed without rejection. This practice echoes the Zen teaching of wabi-sabi, which finds beauty in the imperfect and transient. The transcript states, Zen does not see emotional pain as a failure. It sees it as part of the pattern, a necessary element in the artwork of being human. An emotional wound, like a wabi-sabi object with its weathered patina, is beautiful because it reflects life's depth. If you carry the wound of a broken relationship, staying present means acknowledging the pain without rushing to get over it. You might journal, "This loss still aches, and that's okay. It shows how much I cared." This acceptance, rooted in wabi-sabi, sees the wound as a stroke in the painting of your life, not a flaw to erase. By staying with it, you uncover its wisdom, perhaps a lesson in boundaries or the courage to love again. The bodhicitta path amplifies this, using personal wounds to cultivate compassion for all beings. The transcript's image of the bodhisattva offering, "I know what that feels like, let me walk beside you," applies here. When you stay present with your own pain, say, the anxiety of a career setback, you develop empathy for others' struggles. Sharing this vulnerably, perhaps telling a friend, "I'm scared about my future, but I'm learning to sit with it," invites them to share their own fears. As the transcript notes, your humility makes you trustworthy, creating a space where wounds are not hidden but honored. This shared vulnerability mirrors kintsugi, where cracks are traced with gold, becoming bridges of connection rather than marks of shame. Staying present also aligns with the Zen concept of ma, the sacred space between, as the transcript describes. In life, it's the pause before the next thought, the breath between sentences, the silence between tears. When an emotional wound arises, like the guilt of a harsh word, ma is the moment you pause before reacting. Instead of apologizing out of panic or suppressing the guilt, you breathe, noticing its weight. This pause, as the transcript suggests, is full of possibility, allowing the wound to speak, perhaps revealing a need for amends or self-compassion. In daily life, this might look like taking a breath before responding to a heated email, letting the hurt inform your words rather than drive them. This space transforms pain into a teacher, guiding you toward wiser actions. The practice requires patience, as the transcript emphasizes. Healing that lasts is slow, honest, and humble. Rushing to fix a wound, like forcing yourself to feel happy after a loss, only deepens the pain. Instead, staying present respects the wound's timeline. If you're grappling with self-doubt, you might meditate daily, noting its presence without forcing it to leave. Over time, as the transcript's neuroplasticity reference suggests, this rewires your relationship to the wound, making it less a source of suffering and more a part of your story. The Buddha's own journey reflects this. His years of ascetic struggle, met with presence under the Bodhi tree, transformed his pain into awakening. As the transcript states, every failure broke something false until only truth remained. In daily life, staying present with wounds manifests in small, intentional acts. When anger flares, perhaps at a family member's oversight, instead of lashing out, pause and notice the heat, the racing pulse. Ask, what's beneath this? This mindfulness, as the transcript advises, turns the wound into a stroke in a painting that is still unfolding. Or when sadness lingers, like after a missed opportunity, sit with it, perhaps through a quiet walk, letting it move through you like a passing storm. These acts honor the wound as part of your humanity, aligning with the transcript's call to stop chasing the illusion of being untouched by life. Tonight, as you rest, let your emotional wounds, your grief, your shame be met with presence. The transcript assures, you are not a broken bowl waiting to be glued together. You are a living work of art in progress. Each wound is a golden crack, a testament to your resilience. By staying present, you weave them into your heart's kintsugi, not erasing the pain but letting it shine as a sacred part of your becoming. This is the art of Zen, a life that embraces its wounds, not as flaws, but as the very gold that makes it whole. Mono no aware, and the bittersweet flow of life. The Japanese concept of mono no aware, described in the transcript as the bittersweet awareness of the impermanence of all things, offers a profound lens for embracing life's fleeting nature. This Zen-inspired teaching invites us to find beauty in the transient flow of existence, where joy, sorrow, and everything in between arise and pass like waves on a shore. As the transcript states, when you feel broken, this truth offers comfort, not because it denies your pain, but because it reminds you nothing stays fixed. Not your grief, not your guilt, not your loneliness. By aligning with mono no aware, we learn to honor emotional wounds not as permanent scars, but as part of life's ever-changing tapestry, softening our resistance to pain and opening our hearts to the poignant beauty of impermanence. Mono no aware captures the tender ache of recognizing that all things, moments of love, pangs of regret, bursts of happiness, are ephemeral. The transcript emphasizes, they pass slowly, sometimes quietly, but they pass. Consider a moment of loss, like the end of a cherished relationship. The pain feels solid, as if it will define you forever. Yet, mono no aware invites you to see its impermanence. The sharp grief today will soften, shift, and fade, not because you've fixed it, but because life flows. In meditation, you might sit with this grief, noticing its weight in your chest, its ebb and flow with each breath. Instead of clinging to the pain or wishing it away, you whisper, "This is here now, and it will pass." This acceptance, as the transcript suggests, makes space, transforming the wound into a bittersweet reminder of life's fleeting beauty. This perspective aligns with the Buddhist principle of anicca, impermanence, which teaches that all phenomena are transient. The transcript's call to stop chasing the illusion of being untouched by life resonates here. When we resist impermanence, clinging to a perfect moment or dreading a painful one, we suffer. Mono no aware offers a gentler approach. Embrace the flow. For instance, if you're haunted by guilt over a past mistake, like a harsh word spoken in anger, the instinct is to hold on to it, believing it defines you. But sitting mindfully, you notice the guilt's texture, its intensity, its fleeting spikes, and realize it's not permanent. As the transcript notes, nothing stays fixed. This realization doesn't erase the guilt, but softens its grip, allowing you to see it as a passing wave rather than a fixed truth. Mindfulness, supported by the transcript's reference to neuroplasticity, awareness isn't just calming, it's rewiring, amplifies this practice. By observing emotional wounds without judgment, we rewire our brain to accept their transience. Imagine feeling anxious about an upcoming decision. Instead of fighting the anxiety, you sit with it, noting its racing thoughts and tight throat. You might journal, "This anxiety is strong now, but it's not forever." Over time, this practice builds neural pathways that ease the habit of clinging, aligning with mono no aware's bittersweet acceptance. The transcript's wisdom holds, in the passing they make space, where space is not emptiness but possibility, allowing new emotions and insights to arise. The Zen concept of ma, the sacred pause between, complements mono no aware. The transcript describes it as the pause before the next thought, the breath between sentences, the silence between tears. When a wound like sadness surfaces, perhaps after a missed opportunity, ma is the moment you pause, breathing before reacting. This space allows you to feel the sadness's impermanence, its bittersweet flow. In daily life, this might look like pausing after a difficult conversation, letting the hurt settle before responding. This pause, as the transcript suggests, is full of possibility, transforming the wound into a moment of beauty, not because it's pleasant, but because it's real. Mono no aware teaches that this reality, fleeting, imperfect, is what makes life poignant. The bodhicitta path integrates mono no aware by encouraging us to share the bittersweet flow with others. The transcript's image of the bodhisattva's offer, "I know what that feels like, let me walk beside you," reflects this. When you embrace the impermanence of your own pain, like the sorrow of a personal failure, you create space for others' fleeting struggles. Sharing vulnerably, perhaps telling a friend, "I'm still hurting from that setback, but it's changing," invites them to honor their own transient wounds. As the transcript notes, your humility makes you trustworthy, fostering a compassion rooted in shared impermanence. This connection mirrors kintsugi, where cracks are traced with gold, becoming bridges to others' hearts. Mono no aware also reframes our relationship with joy, teaching us to savor it without clinging. The transcript's call to "let softness replace striving" applies here. When you experience a moment of happiness like a warm evening with loved ones, Mono no aware invites you to fully embrace it, knowing it will pass. You might pause, feeling the warmth, and think, "This is beautiful, and it's enough for now." This acceptance deepens the joy, making it a golden thread in your kintsugi heart, not because it lasts, but because it was. Similarly, when pain arises, like the sting of rejection, you meet it with the same presence, knowing it too will shift. This equanimity, rooted in Mono no aware, allows you to live fully in each moment, whether joyful or painful. In daily life, Mono no aware manifests in small acts of presence. When you feel overwhelmed, say, by a stressful day, instead of resisting, pause and notice the feelings flow. This stress is intense, but it won't last. Or when you savor a quiet moment, like watching a sunset, let its fleetingness enhance its beauty, whispering, "This is enough." These acts align with the transcript's advice to stop rushing to fill the space, cultivating a heart that finds beauty in life's transience. Even when you see others' pain, a friend's grief, a stranger's frustration, Mono no aware invites patience, recognizing their struggle as a passing wave, deserving of compassion. This practice requires humility, as the transcript emphasizes. Healing that lasts is slow, honest, and humble. Mono no aware doesn't promise permanent peace, but a bittersweet connection to life's flow. The Buddha's own journey reflects this. His moments of despair, met with presence under the Bodhi tree, revealed the truth of impermanence, leading to awakening. As the transcript states, "You are not a broken bowl waiting to be glued together. You are a living work of art in progress." Tonight, as you rest, let Mono no aware guide you. Your wounds, your joys, are fleeting strokes in your heart's kintsugi, beautiful not despite their transience but because of it. Slow healing as a sacred process. The Zen practice of kintsugi, where broken pottery is mended with gold, teaches that healing is not a race to erase cracks, but a slow, deliberate art form that honors them. As the transcript profoundly states, healing that lasts is slow, honest, and humble. It respects the timeline of the body, the nervous system, the soul. In our urgency to fix emotional wounds, grief, shame, or self-doubt, we often rush toward closure, believing we must be whole to be worthy. Yet, Zen invites us to embrace healing as a sacred process, one that unfolds gradually, respecting the rhythm of our inner landscape. By treating our wounds with patience and presence, we transform them into golden seams, not by forcing repair but by allowing each crack to shine as part of our evolving story. This slow healing aligns with the transcript's call to stop saying "I should be over this by now," and instead say, "This still matters to me. Let me treat it with care." Consider a deep wound, like the lingering pain of a betrayal. The cultural impulse is to demand quick recovery, move on, be strong, let it go. But rushing healing dismisses the wound's depth, as if it were a flaw to erase. Zen, through kintsugi, offers a different path. Sit with the pain, trace its edges, and let it breathe. In meditation, you might notice the betrayal's ache tightness in your throat, a heaviness in your heart, and instead of pushing it away, say, "This hurts, and I'm here for it." This presence, as the transcript notes, respects the timeline of the soul, allowing the wound to soften naturally, like gold settling into a crack. Mindfulness is the cornerstone of this process, supported by the transcript's insight. Awareness isn't just calming, it's rewiring. Neuroscience shows that meeting pain with non-judgmental attention builds new neural pathways, gradually shifting how we relate to wounds. For instance, if you carry self-doubt from a past failure, like a career misstep, forcing positivity, "I should be confident now," only deepens the pain. Instead, sit mindfully, noticing the doubt's texture, its weight, its quiet persistence, and let it be. You might journal, "This doubt is here, and I don't need to fix it today." Over time, as the transcript's neuroplasticity reference suggests, this practice rewires your brain, transforming the wound from a source of shame to a marker of growth. The transcript's wisdom holds. The golden lines don't appear after you fix yourself. They appear when you allow your pain to be seen. This slow approach echoes wabi-sabi, the Zen appreciation of imperfection and transience. The transcript states, Zen does not see emotional pain as a failure. It sees it as part of the pattern, a necessary element in the artwork of being human. A wound, like a wabi-sabi object with its weathered beauty, is not a flaw but a testament to life's depth. If you're healing from grief, such as the loss of a loved one, wabi-sabi invites you to honor the process without rushing to completion. You might reflect during a quiet walk, noting how grief shifts some days sharp, others soft, and say, "This is part of my story." This acceptance sees healing as a painting still unfolding, where each stroke, even the painful ones, adds to the beauty. The concept of ma, the sacred pause, further supports slow healing. The transcript describes it as the pause before the next thought, the breath between sentences, the silence between tears. When a wound surfaces, say, the anxiety of an uncertain future ma is the moment you pause, breathing before reacting. This space allows the wound to reveal its needs, perhaps a need for rest or reassurance. In daily life, this might look like taking a moment before responding to a stressful email, letting the anxiety settle rather than forcing a solution. As the transcript suggests, this space is not emptiness in the way we usually fear it. It's full of possibility. This pause transforms healing into a sacred act, where time itself becomes a partner in mending. The bodhicitta path integrates slow healing by using personal wounds to cultivate compassion for others. The transcript's image of the bodhisattva, "I know what that feels like, let me walk beside you," reflects this. When you patiently sit with your own pain, like the shame of a regretted choice, you develop empathy for others' slow healing. Sharing this process, perhaps telling a friend, "I'm still working through this hurt, and it's okay to take time," invites them to honor their own pace. As the transcript notes, your humility makes you trustworthy, creating a space where slow healing is safe. This mirrors kintsugi, where each golden seam is applied with care, not haste, building bridges of shared vulnerability. Slow healing also requires humility. As the transcript emphasizes, kintsugi doesn't rush the repair. Neither should you. Forcing closure, like demanding to be over a traumatic event, ignores the body's and heart's natural rhythm. If you're healing from rejection, you might meditate daily, noting the pain's subtle shifts without expecting it to vanish. This humility, as the transcript suggests, respects the timeline of the body, the nervous system, the soul. The Buddha's journey reflects this. His years of ascetic struggle, slowly unraveled through mindful presence, led to awakening. As the transcript states, every failure broke something false until only truth remained. Your wounds, met with patience, reveal truths about resilience and love. In daily life, slow healing manifests in small, sacred acts. When guilt arises, perhaps over a parenting mistake, pause and notice its presence without judgment. You might whisper, "This still matters, and I'll care for it slowly." Or when sadness lingers, like after a career setback, take time to sit with it, perhaps through a quiet evening of reflection, trusting its gradual softening. These acts align with the transcript's call to stop waiting until you're healed enough to live fully. Even in community, slow healing shines. Listening to a friend's ongoing grief without urging them to move on honors their process, mirroring your own. Tonight, as you rest, let your wounds be part of your kintsugi heart. The transcript assures, you are not a broken bowl waiting to be glued together. You are a living work of art in progress. Slow healing is sacred, not because it completes you, but because it honors your becoming. Each wound, tended with patience, becomes a golden seam, shining not despite its slowness but because of it. This is the art of Zen, a life that embraces its cracks, trusting that the slow, humble process of healing is enough to make you whole. Anatta, letting go of the perfect self. Understanding anatta, no fixed, lasting I. The Buddhist concept of anatta, or no self, offers a liberating perspective that dismantles the illusion of a fixed, permanent identity, freeing us from the exhausting pursuit of perfection. As the transcript articulates, the concept of anatta, or no self, is not just a philosophical idea. It is a mirror held up to the mind's deepest habit, the belief that there is a solid, lasting me that must always hold it together. We often cling to a rigid sense of self defined by achievements, failures, or ideals, believing it must be flawless to be worthy. Anatta challenges this, teaching that what we call I is not a static entity, but a fluid process of thoughts, emotions, and experiences, constantly arising and passing. By understanding anatta, we release the pressure to maintain a perfect self, finding peace in the unfolding nature of our being. The transcript highlights the suffering caused by this illusion. The idea of I becomes a prison, but what if that I isn't as real as it feels? Consider a moment when you felt inadequate, perhaps failing to meet a work deadline. The mind often spins a story. I'm a failure. I should be better. This story assumes a fixed I that must always succeed. Anatta reveals that this I is not solid, but a collection of fleeting thoughts and feelings. In meditation, you might notice the thought, I'm a failure, arise. Instead of believing it, you observe it as a passing wave, as the transcript suggests. The Buddha taught that what we call the self is not a fixed thing, it is a process. This shift from identifying with the thought to witnessing it dissolves the prison of a perfect self, opening space for freedom. This understanding aligns with the Buddhist principle of impermanence, anicca, where all phenomena, including the self, are transient. The transcript notes, nothing in that flow stays, nothing is solid, and so clinging to it brings suffering. When we cling to a static identity like needing to be the successful one or the calm one, we suffer when life contradicts it, such as during a moment of anger or doubt. Anatta invites us to see these moments as part of a flow, not proof of a flawed self. For example, if you snap at a loved one, the instinct is to label yourself bad. But anatta asks you to pause, breathe, and notice. The anger is a passing emotion, not your essence. This perspective, as the transcript states, brings a strange kind of peace by loosening the grip on a fixed identity. Mindfulness amplifies this liberation, supported by the transcript's neuroplasticity insight. Awareness isn't just calming, it's rewiring. By observing thoughts and emotions without clinging, we rewire our brain to see the self as fluid. Imagine feeling anxious before a public speech. Instead of thinking, "I'm an anxious person," you sit mindfully, noting the racing heart and sweaty palms as temporary sensations. You might whisper, "This is anxiety, not me." Over time, this practice builds neural pathways that weaken the habit of self-identification, aligning with the transcript's point. Once you stop identifying so tightly with every thought or emotion, you realize none of them are proof of your worth. This rewiring transforms anxiety from a personal flaw into a passing experience. Anatta also fosters self-compassion. As the transcript emphasizes, self-compassion becomes more than a practice. It becomes a return to reality. When we see the self as a process, not a fixed entity, we stop judging our imperfections as failures. If you feel shame for a past mistake, like a broken promise, anatta invites you to view the shame as a fleeting emotion, not a verdict on your worth. You might journal, "This shame is here, but it's not who I am." This perspective, as the transcript suggests, dissolves the inner prison of self-blame, allowing you to meet yourself with kindness. The transcript's wisdom holds, "There is a thought here, and it's not a command. There is a memory here, but it's not a cage." The bodhicitta path integrates anatta by using this fluidity to benefit others. The transcript's image of the bodhisattva, "I know what that feels like, let me walk beside you," reflects this. When you release the fixed self, you see others' struggles as part of the same flow. Sharing a moment of vulnerability, like telling a friend, "I'm struggling with self-doubt, but I'm learning it's not all I am," invites them to release their own fixed identities. As the transcript notes, your humility makes you trustworthy, creating a space where imperfection is safe. This mirrors kintsugi, where cracks are honored with gold, becoming bridges of shared humanity. In daily life, anatta manifests in small acts of release. When self-criticism arises, say, after a parenting mistake, pause and notice the thought, "I'm a bad parent." Instead of believing it, see it as a passing cloud. As anatta teaches, you might say, "This thought is here, but it's not me." Or when you feel pressure to be perfect at work, breathe and remind yourself, "I'm a process, not a product." These acts align with the transcript's call to stop needing to control every feeling. Even in relationships, Anatta softens judgment, seeing a friend's impatience as a momentary state, not their essence, fosters patience and compassion. This practice requires humility, as the transcript notes. When you stop pretending to be more enlightened than you are, you make room for learning. Anatta doesn't erase the self, but frees it from rigidity. The Buddha's journey reflects this. His struggles as Siddhartha, met with mindful inquiry, revealed the self's fluidity, leading to awakening. As the transcript states, this clarity is liberating. Tonight, as you rest, let anatta guide you. Your thoughts, your flaws, are not a fixed I, but a flow. You are not broken but unfolding, a living process that shines in its impermanence, free from the cage of perfection, loosening the grip on identity and expectations. The Buddhist teaching of anatta, or no self, invites us to release the tight grip on a fixed identity and the expectations that bind us to an idealized version of who we should be. As the transcript powerfully states, when you stop trying to protect an image of who you think you should be, a strange kind of peace begins to grow. Our suffering often stems from clinging to rigid ideas of self-expectations, to be flawless, successful, or always composed, which create a cycle of self-judgment when life falls short. Anatta reveals that these expectations are illusions, not truths, and by loosening our hold on them, we free ourselves from the pressure to perform, opening a spaciousness where peace and authenticity can flourish. This clinging manifests in daily life as a relentless inner narrative. I must be perfect. I should be further along. Or, I can't fail. The transcript captures this. The version of self that must be perfect, impressive, wise, flawless, strong, panics when it falls short. Consider a moment when you felt overwhelmed by expectations, perhaps preparing for a high-stakes meeting and fearing you'll appear incompetent. The mind constructs an image of the perfect professional, and any deviation, like stumbling over words, feels like a personal failure. Anatta challenges this by teaching that there is no fixed I to uphold. In meditation, you might notice the thought, I must impress them, and instead of clinging to it, observe it as a passing cloud. As the transcript suggests, clinging to it brings suffering, not because we're doing something wrong, but because we're holding tightly to something that won't hold still. This release aligns with the Buddhist principle of dukkha, the unsatisfactoriness caused by resisting life's flow. The transcript notes, most suffering comes from this misunderstanding that there's a perfect version of you somewhere that you must live up to. When we expect ourselves to always be calm, productive, or wise, we suffer when emotions like anger or doubt arise. Anatta invites us to see these as transient experiences, not evidence of a flawed self. For example, if you lose patience with a child, the expectation of being a perfect parent might trigger guilt. But pausing to breathe and recognize, this impatience is a moment, not me, loosens the grip on that identity. The transcript's wisdom holds. You stop needing to control every feeling. You stop needing to explain every flaw. 1. Mindfulness facilitates this loosening, as the transcript's neuroplasticity insight confirms. Awareness isn't just calming, it's rewiring. By observing expectations without attachment, we rewire our brain to embrace fluidity over fixation. Imagine feeling inadequate after a social misstep, like saying something awkward at a gathering. Instead of spiraling into self-criticism, "I'm so clumsy," mindfulness allows you to notice the thought and let it pass, perhaps whispering, "This is just a thought, not my truth." Over time, this practice builds neural pathways that weaken the need to uphold a perfect image, aligning with the transcript's point. You start meeting each moment not as the perfect me, but simply as awareness itself, open, responsive, kind. This shift transforms self-judgment into curiosity, freeing you from the weight of expectations. The bodhicitta path amplifies this by turning the release of identity into compassion for others. The transcript's image of the bodhisattva, "I know what that feels like, let me walk beside you," reflects this. When you loosen your grip on a fixed self, you see others' struggles as part of the same fluid process. Sharing a moment of vulnerability, like telling a colleague, "I felt out of my depth today, but I'm okay with it," invites them to release their own expectations. As the transcript notes, your humility makes you trustworthy, creating a space where imperfection is safe. This mirrors kintsugi, where golden seams honor cracks, connecting us through shared humanity rather than polished facades. Loosening expectations also fosters self-compassion, as the transcript emphasizes. Self-compassion becomes more than a practice. It becomes a return to reality. When you stop expecting perfection, you meet your flaws with kindness. If you feel shame for a past mistake, like a failed project, anatta invites you to see it as a fleeting event, not a defining trait. You might journal, "This failure happened, but it's not who I am." This perspective, as the transcript suggests, dissolves the inner prison of needing to be flawless, allowing you to rest in your unfolding nature. The transcript's wisdom holds, this clarity is liberating. Suddenly, failure doesn't mean you are a failure. In daily life, loosening the grip on identity manifests in small, intentional acts. When you feel pressure to perform, say, during a family gathering where you're expected to be cheerful, pause and notice the expectation, "I must be happy." Instead of forcing a smile, breathe and say, "I'm allowed to feel what I feel." This aligns with the transcript's call to stop needing to appear spiritual. In relationships, anatta softens reactivity. When a friend disappoints you, instead of clinging to an expectation of their behavior, see their actions as a moment in their flow, not their essence. This fosters patience, as the transcript notes. You let people be messy, you let them be real. And this practice requires humility, as the transcript emphasizes. When you stop pretending to be more enlightened than you are, you make room for learning. The Buddha's journey reflects this. His struggles as Siddhartha, from chasing extremes to facing doubt, were met with mindful release, revealing the self's fluidity. As the transcript states, it's not about becoming nothing, it's about becoming free. Tonight, as you rest, let anatta guide you. Your expectations, your need to be perfect, are not fixed truths but passing stories. By loosening their grip, you open to a peace that doesn't demand flawlessness, only presents a heart free to unfold, moment by moment. Meeting emotions as passing weather. The Buddhist concept of anatta, or no self, transforms our relationship with emotions by revealing them as transient phenomena, like weather passing through the sky of awareness, rather than defining features of a fixed I. As the transcript vividly illustrates, you start noticing how they move, how they crest and fall like weather patterns passing through the sky. Emotions, anger, sadness, fear, often feel solid, as if they define who we are, especially when we cling to the expectation of being flawless. Anatta teaches that these emotions are not us, but fleeting experiences, arising and dissolving in the flow of life. By meeting them as passing weather, we release the need to control or judge them, cultivating a spacious awareness that fosters peace and compassion. The transcript captures this shift. You don't have to take every emotional wave personally. You start noticing how they move, how they crest and fall like weather patterns. Consider a moment of intense anger, perhaps triggered by a colleague's careless remark. The instinct is to identify with it, "I'm an angry person," or resist it as a flaw, believing you should always be calm. Anatta invites you to see this anger as a storm, temporary and not your essence. In meditation, you might sit with the anger, noticing its heat, the clenched jaw, and think, "This is anger passing through." As the transcript suggests, you are not the storm. You are the space that allows it to pass. This perspective loosens the grip of identity, freeing you from the need to be an unemotional, perfect self. This approach aligns with the Buddhist principle of impermanence, anicca, which teaches that all phenomena, including emotions, arise and fade. The transcript notes, they don't define a self, they just arise, stay for a while, and pass. When we cling to emotions as proof of who we are feeling, shame for sadness or pride for joy, we suffer. Anatta reframes emotions as weather, not walls. For example, if sadness washes over you after a personal setback, like a missed opportunity, the urge might be to label yourself depressed or fight the feeling. Instead, pause, breathe, and observe its texture, perhaps a heaviness in your chest. As the transcript advises, you learn not to clutch at your pain, but also not to reject it. You let it pass through like wind through leaves. This non-clinging allows sadness to move, revealing its impermanent nature. Mindfulness is the key to this practice, supported by the transcript's neuroplasticity insight. Awareness isn't just calming, it's rewiring. By observing emotions without attachment, we rewire our brain to see them as transient. Imagine feeling anxious before a difficult conversation. Instead of thinking, "I'm a nervous wreck," you sit mindfully, noting the racing pulse and tight throat as passing sensations. You might whisper, "This is anxiety, not my identity." Over time, this practice builds neural pathways that weaken the habit of identifying with emotions, aligning with the transcript's point. The space between stimulus and reaction grows. This space allows you to respond with clarity rather than react from a fixed sense of self, transforming anxiety into a fleeting weather pattern. The bodhicitta path integrates this by using emotional impermanence to foster compassion. The transcript's image of the bodhisattva, "I know what that feels like, let me walk beside you," applies here. When you meet your own emotions as passing weather, you see others' emotions similarly. Sharing a vulnerable moment, like telling a friend, "I felt so angry today, but it passed," invites them to view their own emotions as transient. As the transcript notes, your humility makes you trustworthy, creating a space where emotional waves are safe to express. This mirrors kintsugi, where cracks are honored with gold, connecting us through shared impermanence rather than polished perfection. This practice also fosters self-compassion, As the transcript emphasizes, you can grieve without becoming the one who is always grieving. You can be angry without becoming a bad person. When you feel shame for a heated outburst, anatta invites you to see it as a passing storm, not a permanent trait. You might journal, "This shame is here now, but it's not me." This perspective, as the transcript suggests, dissolves the chain of self-blame, allowing you to meet emotions with kindness. For instance, during a moment of fear, say, about an uncertain future, you might pause and say, "This fear is passing through, and I'm here with it." This self-compassion aligns with the transcript's wisdom. There is a feeling here, and it's not who I am. In daily life, meeting emotions as passing weather manifests in small acts of awareness. When irritation arises, perhaps stuck in traffic, pause and notice the tension without labeling yourself impatient. You might breathe and think, "This is irritation moving through." Or when joy bubbles up, like during a shared laugh, savor it without clinging, knowing it's a fleeting breeze. These acts align with the transcript's call to let your emotions be waves, not walls. In relationships, this perspective softens judgment. Seeing a partner's frustration as a passing storm, not their essence, fosters patience. As the transcript notes, you start noticing what's beneath both, finding the stillness of awareness beneath emotional highs and lows. This practice requires humility. As the transcript emphasizes, when you stop pretending to be more enlightened than you are, you make room for learning. The Buddha's journey reflects this. Under the Bodhi tree, he faced fear and doubt as passing phenomena, not as definitions of self, leading to awakening. As the transcript states, you are not the storm, you are the space that allows it to pass. Tonight, as you rest, let anatta guide you. Your emotions, anger, joy, fear, are not a fixed I, but passing weather. By meeting them with awareness, you find a peace that doesn't demand emotional perfection, only presents a heart open to the ever-changing sky of being. Sky-like awareness, holding all experiences. The Buddhist teaching of anatta, or no self, invites us to cultivate a sky-like awareness that holds all experiences, joy, pain, doubt, delight, without clinging to any as defining our essence. As the transcript beautifully articulates, the sky holds all weather without clinging to any of it. Your awareness holds all experiences, joy, fear, shame, delight, but it is not reduced to any of them. This spacious awareness, vast and unbounded like the sky, allows us to meet every emotion, thought, and sensation as transient, freeing us from the need to construct a perfect self. By embracing this sky-like quality, we release the illusion of a fixed identity, finding peace in the capacity to hold life's impermanent flow with clarity and compassion. This sky-like awareness shifts our perspective from being the storm to being the space that contains it. The transcript emphasizes, you are not the storm, you are the space that allows it to pass. Consider a moment of intense shame, perhaps after a public mistake like stumbling during a presentation. The instinct is to identify with the shame, I'm a failure, and let it define you. But anatta teaches that you are not the shame, you are the awareness observing it. In meditation, you might sit with the shame, noticing its heat, its racing thoughts, and think, this is shame, passing through my awareness. As the transcript suggests, your awareness holds all experiences, but it is not reduced to any of them. This spaciousness allows the shame to move without becoming your identity, opening a path to peace. This practice aligns with the Buddhist principle of impermanence, anicca, which sees all phenomena as transient. The transcript notes, they arise, stay for a while, and pass. Emotions like anger or joy, thoughts of success or failure, are like clouds in the sky of awareness, temporary, not permanent. When you feel overwhelmed by fear, such as anxiety about an uncertain future, the urge is to fight it or define yourself as anxious. Sky-like awareness invites you to pause, breathe, and observe the fear as a passing cloud. You might whisper, "This fear is here, but it's not me." This perspective, as the transcript states, creates a space between stimulus and reaction, allowing you to respond with clarity rather than react from a fixed sense of self. Mindfulness cultivates this spacious awareness, supported by the transcript's neuroplasticity insight. Awareness isn't just calming, it's rewiring. By observing experiences without attachment, we rewire our brain to see them as transient. Imagine feeling joy during a moment of connection, like a warm conversation with a friend. Instead of clinging to it, fearing its loss, you notice its warmth, its fleeting glow, and let it pass. In daily life, you might journal, "This joy is beautiful, and it's moving through." Over time, this practice builds neural pathways that weaken the habit of identifying with experiences, aligning with the transcript's point. You don't have to take every emotional wave personally. This rewiring transforms emotions from defining traits to passing weather, held in the vastness of awareness. The bodhicitta path integrates this sky-like awareness by fostering compassion for others' transient experiences. The transcript's image of the bodhisattva, "I know what that feels like, let me walk beside you," reflects this. When you hold your own emotions as passing clouds, you see others' struggles similarly. Sharing a moment of vulnerability, like telling a colleague, "I felt overwhelmed today, but it passed through me," invites them to see their own emotions as transient. As the transcript notes, your humility makes you trustworthy, creating a space where experiences are safe to express. This mirrors kintsugi, where golden seams honor cracks, connecting us through shared impermanence rather than fixed identities. Sky-like awareness also fosters self-compassion, as the transcript emphasizes. Even your worst moments don't need to be fought. They need to be understood, met with honesty, held with care. When you feel guilt for a harsh word, anatta invites you to see it as a passing storm, not a permanent flaw. You might sit mindfully, noting the guilt's weight, and say, "This is guilt, moving through my awareness." This perspective dissolves the chain of self-blame, as the transcript suggests, allowing you to meet yourself with kindness. For instance, during a moment of doubt, say, about your abilities, you might pause and think, "This doubt is a cloud, not the sky." This self-compassion aligns with the transcript's wisdom. There is a feeling here, and it's not who I am. In daily life, sky-like awareness manifests in small acts of spaciousness. When irritation arises, perhaps during a frustrating delay, pause and notice it as a passing breeze, not a defining trait. You might breathe and say, "This irritation is here, but it's not me." Or when joy bubbles up, like during a sunset walk, savor it without clinging, knowing it's a fleeting ray. These acts align with the transcript's call to Let your emotions be waves, not walls. In relationships, this perspective softens reactivity. Seeing a friend's anger as a passing storm, not their essence, fosters patience. As the transcript notes, this sky-like quality of awareness is central to Buddhist insight, grounding you in the stillness beneath life's fluctuations. This practice requires humility, as the transcript emphasizes. When you stop pretending to be more enlightened than you are, you make room for learning. The Buddha's journey reflects this. Under the Bodhi tree, he faced Mara's doubts and desires as passing clouds, not as his identity leading to awakening. As the transcript states, you are not the storm. You are the space that allows it to pass. Tonight, as you rest, let anatta guide you. Your experiences, joy, pain, doubt are not a fixed I, but clouds in the sky of awareness. By holding them with spaciousness, you find a peace that doesn't demand perfection, only presents a heart vast enough to embrace all that passes through. Liberation from self-blame and inner prison. The Buddhist teaching of anatta, or no self, offers a path to liberation from the suffocating cycle of self-blame and the inner prison of perfectionism. As the transcript powerfully declares, this clarity is liberating. Suddenly, failure doesn't mean you are a failure. Pain doesn't mean you are broken. When we cling to a fixed idea of self-believing we must be flawless, successful, or perpetually composed, every misstep becomes a verdict, trapping us in a cage of self-criticism. Anatta reveals that this self is not solid, but a fluid process of thoughts, emotions, and experiences, none of which define us. By embracing this truth, we free ourselves from the chains of self-blame, finding peace in a spacious awareness that holds our imperfections with kindness and allows us to live authentically. Self-blame often arises from the illusion of a permanent I that must meet impossible standards. The transcript captures this. The idea of I becomes a prison. But what if that I isn't as real as it feels? Consider a moment when you felt overwhelmed by guilt, perhaps for letting a friend down with a broken promise. The mind spins a story. I'm a terrible person, I always fail. This narrative assumes a fixed self that is inherently flawed. Anatta challenges this by teaching that you are not the guilt, but the awareness observing it. In meditation, you might notice the guilt's weight tightness in your chest, racing thoughts, and say, "This is guilt," passing through. As the transcript suggests, there is a memory here, but it's not a cage. This shift dissolves the prison of self-blame, freeing you to see yourself as a process, not a verdict. This liberation aligns with the Buddhist principle of dukkha, the suffering caused by clinging to illusions. The transcript notes, most suffering comes from this misunderstanding that there's a perfect version of you somewhere that you must live up to. When we judge ourselves for emotions like anger or doubt, we deepen our pain, believing they prove our inadequacy. Anatta reframes these as transient phenomena, not evidence of a broken self. For example, if you feel shame after a work mistake, like missing a deadline, the instinct is to label yourself incompetent. But pausing to breathe and recognize, this shame is a moment, not me, loosens the grip of self-blame. The transcript's wisdom holds. Thoughts don't define reality, allowing you to step out of the inner prison of perfectionism. Mindfulness is the key to this freedom, supported by the transcript's neuroplasticity insight. Awareness isn't just calming, it's rewiring. By observing self-critical thoughts without attachment, we rewire our brain to release the habit of self-blame. Imagine feeling inadequate after a social blunder, like an awkward comment at a gathering. Instead of spiraling into, "I'm so clumsy," you sit mindfully, noting the thought as a passing cloud. You might whisper, "This is a thought, not my truth." Over time, this practice builds neural pathways that weaken the cycle of self-judgment, aligning with the transcript's point. A self-critical voice might say, "You're not doing enough," but without a solid self to attack, that voice loses its power. This rewiring transforms self-blame into an opportunity for self-compassion. The bodhicitta path amplifies this liberation by turning it into compassion for others. The transcript's image of the bodhisattva, "I know what that feels like, let me walk beside you," reflects this. When you free yourself from self-blame, you see others' struggles as part of the same fluid process. Sharing a vulnerable moment, like telling a friend, "I used to beat myself up for that mistake, but I'm learning it's not who I am," invites them to release their own self-criticism. As the transcript notes, your humility makes you trustworthy, creating a space where imperfection is safe. This mirrors kintsugi, where golden seams honor cracks, connecting us through shared humanity rather than polished facades. Self-compassion is the heart of this liberation, as the transcript emphasizes. Even your worst moments don't need to be fought. They need to be understood, met with honesty, held with care. When you feel guilt for a harsh word, anatta invites you to see it as a passing event, not a permanent flaw. You might journal, "This guilt is here, but it doesn't define me." This perspective dissolves the inner prison of needing to be flawless, allowing you to meet yourself with kindness. For instance, during a moment of doubt, say, about your worth, you might pause and say, "This doubt is passing through, and I'm enough as I am." This aligns with the transcript's wisdom. There is a feeling here, and it's not who I am. In daily life, liberation from self-blame manifests in small acts of release. When self-criticism arises, perhaps after forgetting an important task, pause and notice the thought, "I'm so irresponsible." Instead of believing it, see it as a passing wave, as anatta teaches. You might breathe and say, "This thought is here, but it's not me." Or when you feel pressure to be perfect, like during a family event, remind yourself, "I'm a process, not a finished product." These acts align with the transcript's call to stop gripping them as proof of who you are. In relationships, this perspective softens judgment, seeing a colleague's mistake as a moment, not their essence, fosters patience and understanding. This practice requires humility, as the transcript emphasizes. When you stop pretending to be more enlightened than you are, you make room for learning. The Buddha's journey reflects this. Facing Mara's temptations under the Bodhi tree, he saw doubts and fears as passing phenomena, not his identity, leading to liberation. As the transcript states, this is the essence of freedom, not the absence of difficulty, but the absence of clinging. Tonight, as you rest, let anatta guide you. Your self-blame, your flaws, are not a fixed I, but fleeting moments. By releasing them, you step out of the inner prison, finding a peace that doesn't demand perfection, only presents a heart free to shine in its unfolding. Equanimity and the lotus, blooming in mud. Upekkha, steady balance amid life's storms. In the Buddhist tradition, upekkha, or equanimity, is the art of maintaining a steady heart amid life's inevitable storms, offering a profound antidote to the chaos of emotional highs and lows. As the transcript beautifully states, upekkha is not detachment, not cold distance, but the deepest kind of balance, full presence without collapse. Far from numbness, upekkha is the ability to meet joy without clinging, pain without drowning, and uncertainty without flinching, rooted in a clear seeing of life's impermanence. This steady balance allows us to navigate the turbulence of failure, grief, or fear, not by escaping them, but by holding them with wisdom and compassion, transforming chaos into a sacred opportunity for presence. The transcript captures the essence of upekkha. It allows joy without gripping it, pain without drowning in it, reality to be what it is, without needing to twist it into comfort. Consider a moment of intense emotional upheaval, like the grief of losing a loved one. The instinct is to either cling to the pain, believing it defines you, or push it away, seeking distraction. Upekkha invites a third path, staying present with the grief, noticing its weight in your heart, its ebb and flow, without letting it consume you. In meditation, you might sit with the grief, breathing through its intensity, and think, "This is grief, and I can hold it." As the transcript notes, its emotional clarity born not from control but from wisdom, allowing you to remain steady even as the storm rages. This balance aligns with the Buddhist principle of impermanence, anicca, which teaches that no feeling lasts forever. The transcript emphasizes, no feeling stays. Every wave, no matter how strong, eventually meets the shore. When we face a storm like anger, perhaps sparked by a betrayal, upekkha helps us see it as transient, not permanent. Instead of reacting with rage or suppressing it, you pause, observe the heat in your body, and recognize, this anger will pass. This perspective, as the transcript suggests, breaks the cycle of reactivity, allowing you to respond with clarity rather than be swept away. For example, you might choose to express your hurt calmly rather than lash out, embodying upekkha's steady presence. Mindfulness cultivates this equanimity, supported by the transcript's neuroplasticity insight. When you meet pain without tightening, your body learns safety again. By observing emotions without grasping, we rewire our brain to remain balanced. Imagine feeling anxious about a looming deadline. Instead of panicking, you sit mindfully, noting the racing thoughts and tight chest, and whisper, "This is anxiety, and it's temporary." Over time, this practice builds neural pathways that foster calm amid chaos, aligning with the transcript's point. You don't need to fix the chaos to find peace. You need to relate to it differently. This rewiring transforms anxiety from a storm that overwhelms to one you can weather with steadiness. The bodhicitta path integrates upekkha by fostering compassion through balanced presence. The transcript's image of the bodhisattva, "I know what that feels like, let me walk beside you," reflects this. When you hold your own storms with equanimity, you offer the same to others. Sharing a moment of calm, like telling a friend, "I felt overwhelmed too, but I stayed with it," invites them to find balance in their own chaos. As the transcript notes, you offer quiet presence instead of pressure, creating trust. This mirrors kintsugi, where golden seams hold cracks together, connecting us through shared resilience rather than forced harmony. Upekkha also fosters self-compassion. As the transcript emphasizes, it gives you permission to feel what you feel without being owned by it. When you feel shame for a mistake, like snapping at a colleague, Upekkha invites you to hold it lightly, not as a definition of self. You might pause, breathe and say, "This shame is here, but I'm not lost in it." This balance, as the transcript suggests, doesn't judge the trembling voice or racing thoughts, allowing you to meet yourself with kindness. In moments of physical struggle, like chronic pain, Upekkha reminds you, the body may be limited, but the heart can remain open. Aligning with the transcript's wisdom, you don't need to be strong to be steady. In daily life, Upekkha manifests in small acts of balance. When frustration arises, say, during a heated argument, pause, notice the tension, and think, "This is a storm, and I can stay present." This aligns with the transcript's call to stay open. Let the waves come, let them pass. In relationships, Upekkha softens reactivity. Seeing a partner's irritation as a passing wave fosters patience, allowing you to listen rather than fix. As the transcript notes, this open quality makes space for others too, building trust through presence. Even in joy, like a moment of laughter, Upekkha lets you savor it without clinging, knowing it's fleeting. This practice requires humility. As the transcript emphasizes, it doesn't shame you, it simply stays. The Buddha's journey reflects this. Facing Mara's storms with steady presence, he remained unshaken, not by denying fear, but by holding it lightly. As the transcript states, Upekkha becomes a landing. You don't have to run. Tonight, as you rest, let Upekkha guide you. Your storms, grief, fear, joy are not your essence, but waves in the vastness of awareness. By holding them with steady balance, you find a peace that doesn't demand calm seas, only a heart open to all weathers, a sacred presence that blooms amid life's storms, not escaping pain, but relating differently. The Buddhist practice of Upekkha, or equanimity, teaches us not to escape pain but to relate to it differently, transforming our relationship with suffering through steady, compassionate presence. As the transcript profoundly states, you don't need to fix the chaos to find peace. You need to relate to it differently. In our instinct to flee discomfort, whether it's grief, anxiety, or failure, we often deepen our suffering by resisting what is. Upekkha invites us to stay present with pain, not to erase it, but to hold it with wisdom, allowing it to reveal its impermanent nature. By relating differently to our wounds, we cultivate a balance that doesn't demand perfection, but fosters a peace that blooms amid life's messiness. The transcript captures this shift. The practice is not about suppressing the storm, it's about not believing you are the storm. Consider a moment of deep sadness, perhaps after a personal loss. The urge is to escape through distraction, denial, or forced positivity, believing the pain is a flaw to overcome. Upekkha offers a different path. Stay with the sadness, notice its texture, and let it be without defining you. In meditation, you might sit with the sadness, feeling its weight in your chest, and think, "This is sadness, and I can be with it." As the transcript notes, it's what happens when you can touch grief and not be taken under by it. This presence allows the pain to move, revealing its transient nature rather than trapping you in its grip. This approach aligns with the Buddhist principle of impermanence, anicca, which teaches that all experiences, including pain, are fleeting. The transcript emphasizes, no feeling stays. Every wave, no matter how strong, eventually meets the shore. When we try to escape pain like the shame of a mistake, such as a harsh word spoken in anger, we reinforce its power, believing it defines us. Upekkha invites us to pause, breathe, and observe the shame without running. You might notice the heat in your face and say, "This is shame, passing through." This perspective, as the transcript suggests, changes your nervous system, teaching you that pain is not a permanent state, but a wave you can weather with steadiness. Mindfulness is central to this practice, supported by the transcript's neuroplasticity insight. When you meet pain without tightening, your body learns safety again. By relating to pain with awareness, we rewire our brain to respond rather than react. Imagine feeling anxious about a looming decision. Instead of escaping through busyness, you sit mindfully, noting the racing thoughts and tight throat, and whisper, "This is anxiety, and it's okay to feel it." Over time, this practice builds neural pathways that foster calm amid discomfort, aligning with the transcript's point. You don't need to fix the chaos to find peace. This rewiring transforms pain from an enemy to a teacher, guiding you toward wiser responses. The bodhicitta path integrates this by fostering compassion through a balanced relationship with pain. The transcript's image of the bodhisattva, "I know what that feels like, let me walk beside you," reflects this. When you relate differently to your own pain, like the fear of failure, you offer the same to others. Sharing a moment of presence, like telling a friend, "I was scared too, but I stayed with it," invites them to face their own pain without escape. As the transcript notes, you offer quiet presence instead of pressure, creating trust. This mirrors kintsugi, where golden seams honor cracks, connecting us through shared resilience rather than avoidance. Upekkha also fosters self-compassion. As the transcript emphasizes, it gives you permission to feel what you feel without being owned by it. When you feel guilt for a misstep, like neglecting a task, Upekkha invites you to hold it lightly, not as a verdict on your worth. You might pause, breathe, and say, "This guilt is here, but it doesn't define me." This balance, as the transcript suggests, removes blame and dissolves shame, allowing you to meet yourself with kindness. In moments of physical pain, like a chronic ache, Upekkha reminds you, the body may hurt, but the heart can stay open, aligning with the transcript's wisdom. You don't need to be strong to be steady. In daily life, relating differently to pain manifests in small acts of presence. When frustration arises, say, during a conflict with a loved one, pause, notice the tension, and think, "This is frustration, and I can stay with it." This aligns with the transcript's call to let the waves come and let them pass. In relationships, Upekkha softens the urge to fix others' pain. When a friend shares their grief, you listen without rushing to solve it, offering presence. As the transcript notes, this changes relationships. People sense when you're not afraid of their pain. Even in joy, Upekkha lets you savor it without clinging, knowing it's fleeting. This practice requires humility, as the transcript emphasizes. It doesn't shame you, it simply stays. The Buddha's journey reflects this. Facing Mara's challenges with steady presence, he related to fear without escape, leading to awakening. As the transcript states, you don't have to run. Tonight, as you rest, let upekkha guide you. Your pain, grief, fear, shame is not your essence but a wave you can hold with presence. By relating differently, you find a peace that doesn't demand escape, only a heart steady enough to bloom in the mud of life's storms. No mud, no lotus, growth from discomfort. The Buddhist metaphor of the lotus flower, which blooms radiant in muddy waters, captures a profound truth. Growth arises not from perfection, but from the discomfort of life's messiness. As the transcript powerfully states, no mud, no lotus. It's not a slogan, it's a warning and a comfort. If you skip the mud, you skip the growth. Discomfort, whether in the form of failure, grief, or uncertainty, is not an obstacle to awakening, but the very soil in which it takes root. By embracing discomfort with equanimity, upekkha, we transform it into a source of wisdom and compassion, allowing us to bloom not in spite of life's challenges but because of them. The transcript emphasizes, awakening doesn't start in moments of perfection. It begins in the exact places you wish it wouldn't, in the failures, the regrets, the awkward memories you flinch away from. Consider a moment of discomfort, like the sting of rejection after a failed project. The instinct is to avoid it, labeling it a flaw, or fleeing through distraction. But the lotus teaches us to stay in the mud, to sit with the rejection's raw ache, perhaps a sinking feeling in your stomach, or racing thoughts of inadequacy. In meditation, you might breathe through this discomfort, noting its texture without judgment, and think, this is rejection, and I can be with it. As the transcript notes, the muddy parts of life are not detours on the path. They are the path. This presence transforms discomfort into a source of growth. This perspective aligns with the Buddhist principle of dukkha, the inherent unsatisfactoriness of life, which includes discomfort. The transcript states, it's about turning toward the places that feel raw and asking what's underneath this. When we face discomfort like anxiety before a big decision, the urge is to escape, believing it's a sign of failure. But upekkha invites us to stay, to observe the anxiety's sensations without labeling them as wrong. You might pause, breathe, and ask, what's this discomfort teaching me? Perhaps it reveals a fear of uncertainty or a need for control. As the transcript suggests, every painful emotion carries information, turning discomfort into a teacher that guides us toward clarity and resilience. Mindfulness amplifies this transformation, supported by the transcript's neuroplasticity insight. When you meet pain without tightening, your body learns safety again. By relating to discomfort with awareness, we rewire our brain to embrace it as growth. Imagine feeling shame after a social misstep, like an awkward comment. Instead of hiding, you sit mindfully, noting the flush of embarrassment, and whisper, this is shame, and it's temporary. Over time, this practice builds neural pathways that foster equanimity, aligning with the transcript's point. You don't need to fix the chaos to find peace. This rewiring transforms discomfort from a threat to a nutrient, like mud nourishing the lotus's bloom. The bodhicitta path integrates this by using discomfort to cultivate compassion. The transcript's image of the bodhisattva, I know what that feels like, let me walk beside you, reflects this. When you stay with your own discomfort, like the pain of a broken relationship, you develop empathy for others' struggles. Sharing this vulnerably, like telling a friend, "I felt rejected too, but I'm learning from it," invites them to face their own mud. As the transcript notes, your humility makes you trustworthy, creating a space where discomfort is safe to share. This mirrors kintsugi, where golden seams honor cracks, connecting us through shared resilience rather than avoidance. The lotus metaphor also fosters self-compassion, as the transcript emphasizes. It's not about feeling good, it's about being real. When you feel discomfort, like guilt over a parenting mistake, upekkha invites you to hold it gently, not as a flaw. You might pause, breathe, and say, "This guilt is mud, and I'm growing through it." This perspective, as the transcript suggests, turns discomfort into the seed of something meaningful, allowing you to meet yourself with kindness. In moments of physical discomfort, like fatigue, the lotus reminds you that even this mud can nourish growth, aligning with the transcript's wisdom. Your trauma, your loneliness, your failure, they're what shape your understanding. In daily life, embracing discomfort manifests in small acts of presence. When frustration arises, say, during a challenging work task, pause, notice the tension, and think, "This is mud, and I can grow here." This aligns with the transcript's call to not escape your discomfort, but breathe with it. In relationships, upekkha softens the urge to fix others' discomfort. When a friend shares their anxiety, you listen without rushing to solve it, recognizing their mud as fertile. As the transcript notes, they weren't there to punish you, they were there to lead you home. Even in joy, the lotus reminds you that it grows from mud, grounding your happiness in life's impermanence. This practice requires humility, as the transcript emphasizes. Choosing to remain present with imperfection is revolutionary. The Buddha's journey reflects this. Under the Bodhi tree, he faced discomfort, doubt, fear, desire in the mud of his mind, transforming it into awakening. As the transcript states, that's what turns mud into nourishment. Tonight, as you rest, let the lotus guide you. Your discomfort, failure, fear, pain is not a barrier, but the mud of growth. By staying with it, you bloom with upekkha, finding a peace that doesn't demand clean waters, only a heart steady enough to grow in the mud. Sakha, truthfulness in facing the raw. In the Buddhist tradition, sakha, or truthfulness, is not just about speaking honestly, but about facing the raw reality of our inner and outer experiences with unwavering courage. As the transcript profoundly states, sakha, meaning truthfulness, is the act of seeing what is without embellishment, without denial. When confronted with discomfort, grief, shame, or fear, our instinct is to hide, numb, or reframe it to appear more spiritual. But sakha invites us to turn toward the raw, unfiltered truth of our pain, not to fix it but to understand it. By embracing this truthfulness, we cultivate equanimity, upekkha, allowing discomfort to become a teacher that guides us toward awakening, blooming like a lotus in the mud of life's challenges. The transcript emphasizes, it's about turning toward the places that feel raw and asking what's underneath this. Consider a moment of intense shame, perhaps after a public mistake like a failed presentation. The urge is to cover it with excuses or distract with positivity. But sakha asks you to face the raw truth, the burning cheeks, the sinking heart, the thought, "I'm not good enough." In meditation, You might sit with this shame, breathing through its intensity, and say, "This is what I feel, and I'll meet it honestly." As the transcript notes, to see your pain without hiding from it, that is truth. This truthfulness transforms shame from a flaw into a doorway to insight, revealing fears of judgment or unmet expectations. This practice aligns with the Buddhist principle of dukkha, the inherent unsatisfactoriness of life, which includes discomfort. The transcript states, the practice is not about feeling good, it's about being real. When we avoid the raw truth of discomfort, like the anxiety of an uncertain future, we deepen our suffering by denying reality. Sakha invites us to stay, to observe the anxiety's sensations without embellishment. You might pause, notice the racing pulse, and ask, "What's here?" Perhaps it reveals a need for control or a fear of failure. As the transcript suggests, every painful emotion carries information, turning raw discomfort into a teacher that guides us toward clarity and resilience. Mindfulness amplifies this truthfulness, supported by the transcript's neuroplasticity insight. When you meet pain without tightening, your body learns safety again. By facing discomfort with honest awareness, we rewire our brain to embrace reality over avoidance. Imagine feeling guilt after a harsh word to a loved one. Instead of justifying it, you sit mindfully, noting the guilt's weight, and whisper, "This is guilt, and I'm facing it." Over time, this practice builds neural pathways that foster equanimity, aligning with the transcript's point. You don't need to fix the chaos to find peace. This rewiring transforms discomfort from a threat to a nutrient, like mud nourishing the lotus's bloom. The bodhicitta path integrates sakha by using truthfulness to foster compassion. The transcript's image of the bodhisattva, "I know what that feels like, let me walk beside you," reflects this. When you face your own raw pain, like the sorrow of a broken relationship, you develop empathy for others' struggles. Sharing this honestly, like telling a friend, "I'm still hurting from that loss, and it's okay to feel it," invites them to face their own raw truths. As the transcript notes, your humility makes you trustworthy, creating a space where rawness is safe. This mirrors kintsugi, where golden seams honor cracks, connecting us through shared honesty rather than polished facades. Sakha also fosters self-compassion, as the transcript emphasizes, to name your fear without judgment, to hold your contradictions without needing to resolve them. When you feel discomfort, like doubt over a career choice, Sakha invites you to name it honestly. "This doubt is raw, and I'll sit with it." You might journal, "I'm uncertain, and that's the truth right now." This truthfulness, as the transcript suggests, is the foundation of any real awakening, allowing you to meet yourself with kindness. In moments of physical pain, like a lingering injury, Sakha reminds you to face the raw sensation without denial, aligning with the transcript's wisdom. Serenity isn't the absence of struggle, it's the presence of full-hearted honesty. In daily life, Sakha manifests in small acts of truthfulness. When anger arises, say, during a disagreement, pause, notice the heat, and think, "This is anger, and I'm facing it." This aligns with the transcript's call to let the tears come, admit what hurts. In relationships, Sakha softens the urge to hide. When a friend asks how you're doing, saying, "I'm struggling, and that's okay," fosters connection. As the transcript notes, that's where real connection begins, not in shared success, but in shared humanity. Even in joy, Sikha invites honesty, savoring a moment of laughter without pretending it's permanent, acknowledges its fleeting truth. This practice requires humility, as the transcript emphasizes. Sometimes it looks like crying on the floor. That's not failure, that's awareness. The Buddha's journey reflects this. Facing Mara's raw temptations under the Bodhi tree, he responded with truthfulness. I see you, transforming discomfort into awakening. As the transcript states, that's what turns mud into nourishment. Tonight, as you rest, let Sikha guide you. Your raw discomfort, shame, fear, pain, is not a flaw, but a truth to face. By meeting it with honesty, you bloom with pechka, finding a peace that doesn't demand perfection, only a heart brave enough to face the raw. Awakening as presence, not perfection. In the Buddhist tradition, awakening is not about achieving a flawless state, but about cultivating a profound presence that embraces life's imperfections with equanimity, pechka. As the transcript beautifully states, when we speak of awakening, we're not talking about becoming a perfect version of yourself. We're talking about seeing things clearly, even your failures, especially your failures. This presence, rooted in the willingness to meet discomfort, grief, doubt, or failure without needing to fix it, allows us to bloom like a lotus in the mud of life's challenges. Awakening is not a destination of perfection, but a continuous practice of being fully alive in each moment, imperfections and all, with a heart grounded in clarity and compassion. The transcript emphasizes, you become real. Real is the only place awakening lives. Consider a moment of failure, like a project that didn't meet expectations. The instinct is to strive for a perfect self, free of mistakes, but this pursuit creates suffering. Awakening invites you to stay present with the failure, to see it clearly without judgment. In meditation, you might sit with the disappointment, noticing the tightness in your chest, and think, this is disappointment, and I'm here with it. As the transcript notes, when you see clearly, you stop trying to hide. You stop wearing masks. This presence transforms failure from a flaw into a moment of truth, revealing that awakening lies in honesty, not perfection. This perspective aligns with the Buddhist principle of dukkha, which sees discomfort as a teacher, not a barrier. The transcript states, the practice is not about feeling good, it's about being real. When we face discomfort, like the anxiety of an uncertain future, awakening requires staying with it, not escaping. You might pause, breathe, and observe the anxiety's sensations, asking, what's here? This inquiry, as the transcript suggests, reveals what you care about, your depth, turning anxiety into a guide toward clarity. For instance, the anxiety might show a fear of loss, prompting a compassionate response, like setting boundaries or seeking support. This presence, rooted in pechka, fosters awakening by embracing reality as it is. Mindfulness deepens this practice, supported by the transcript's neuroplasticity insight. When you meet pain without tightening, your body learns safety again. By staying present with discomfort, we rewire our brain to embrace reality over perfectionism. Imagine feeling shame after a social misstep, like an awkward comment. Instead of hiding, you sit mindfully, noting the flush of embarrassment, and whisper, "This is shame, and it's okay." Over time, this builds neural pathways that foster equanimity, aligning with the transcript's point. You don't need to fix the chaos to find peace. This rewiring transforms discomfort from a threat to a nutrient, nourishing the lotus of awakening in life's mud. The bodhicitta path integrates this by turning presence into compassion for others. The transcript's image of the bodhisattva, "I know what that feels like, let me walk beside you," reflects this. When you stay present with your own discomfort, like the pain of a broken dream, you offer the same to others. Sharing this honestly, like telling a friend, "I failed too, but I'm here with it," invites them to embrace their own imperfections. As the transcript notes, your humility makes you trustworthy, creating a space where presence is safe. This mirrors kintsugi, where golden seams honor cracks, connecting us through shared humanity rather than perfected facades. This presence fosters self-compassion, as the transcript emphasizes. It's when you can sit in the middle of your most painful emotion and not flinch. When you feel guilt for a mistake, like neglecting a promise, awakening invites you to hold it gently, not as a verdict. You might pause, breathe, and say, "This guilt is here, and I'm enough." This aligns with the transcript's wisdom. That's not failure, that's awareness. In moments of physical discomfort, like exhaustion, presence reminds you to rest without judgment, embodying the transcript's point. Awakening doesn't mean being above pain. It means letting your pain deepen your capacity to love. In daily life, awakening as presence manifests in small acts of clarity. When doubt arises, say, during a challenging task, pause, notice the uncertainty, and think, "This is doubt, and I'm present with it." This aligns with the transcript's call to not chase relief, but make space for what's true. In relationships, presence softens the urge to fix others. When a friend shares their fear, you listen without rushing to solve it, offering a steady heart. As the transcript notes, that's the kind of strength that changes you. Even in joy, presence lets you savor it without clinging, knowing it's fleeting, grounding your awakening in life's flow. This practice requires humility, as the transcript emphasizes. Choosing to remain present with imperfection is revolutionary. The Buddha's journey reflects this. Facing Mara's raw challenges, he stayed present, saying, "I see you," transforming discomfort into awakening. As the transcript states, presence is what transforms. Tonight, as you rest, let presence guide you. Your discomfort, failure, fear, pain is not a barrier, but the mud of awakening. By staying with it, you bloom with pechka, finding a peace that doesn't demand perfection, only a heart alive to the truth of each moment. Interdependent paths, accepting imperfection in others and self, learning from imperfect teachers and communities. The Buddhist path reminds us that wisdom often comes not from flawless guides, but from imperfect teachers and communities whose humanity mirrors our own. As the transcript Insight Buffen system, the transcript states, the idea of a perfect teacher has followed spiritual seekers for centuries, but Buddhism never asked you to idolize anyone. This perspective challenges the expectation of flawless mentors, recognizing that even those who guide us are human with their own struggles and contradictions. Learning from imperfect teachers and communities requires discernment and humility, allowing us to extract wisdom from their teachings while embracing their flaws as part of the path. This approach not only deepens our own practice, but also fosters a compassion that connects us through shared imperfection, transforming potential disillusionment into opportunities for growth. Consider a teacher who inspires with profound insights but falters in their actions. Perhaps a meditation instructor who speaks of compassion yet struggles with impatience. The transcript notes, sometimes a teacher offers a beautiful teaching but fails to embody it fully. That gap can feel disorienting. The instinct might be to reject them, feeling betrayed by their inconsistency. However, Buddhism encourages discernment. Learning from an imperfect teacher means practicing discernment, noticing not just what they say but how they live. For instance, a teacher's moment of frustration might reveal their humanity, not negate their wisdom. By staying open, you can glean their valuable teachings, perhaps a lesson on mindfulness, while recognizing their flaws as part of their own unfolding process, mirroring your own. This principle extends to spiritual communities, or sanghas, which are often idealized as havens of harmony. The transcript observes, there's an expectation sometimes that spiritual communities should be models of harmony, but expecting perfection from community creates the same suffering as expecting it from yourself. A sangha might include members who gossip or misunderstand each other, creating friction. Instead of seeing this as failure, view it as reality, as the transcript suggests. Cracks in a sa aren't signs of failure, they're signs of reality. For example, a heated debate in a meditation group might feel disruptive, but facing it with honesty, perhaps discussing the tension openly, can deepen trust, turning imperfection into a lesson in patience and understanding. Mindfulness supports this practice, aligning with the transcript's neuroplasticity insight. Awareness isn't just calming, it's rewiring. By mindfully observing a teacher's or community's flaws, say, a leader's moment of pride or a group's cliquishness, you rewire your response from judgment to curiosity. In meditation, you might notice irritation toward a teacher's contradiction. Pause and think, this is irritation, and it's teaching me. This aligns with the transcript's advice. Ask what the teaching gave you, separate from who delivered it. Over time, this builds neural pathways that foster equanimity, allowing you to receive wisdom without needing perfection. As the transcript notes, wisdom is still wisdom, even if spoken by someone who hasn't mastered it yet. The bodhicitta path amplifies this by using others' imperfections to cultivate compassion. The transcript's image of the bodhisattva, I know what that feels like, let me walk beside you, applies here. When you see a teacher's flaw, like a moment of arrogance or a community's tension, you might share, I've struggled with pride too, fostering connection. As the transcript notes, your humility makes you trustworthy, creating a space where flaws are safe to acknowledge. This mirrors kintsugi, where golden seams honor cracks, connecting us through shared humanity rather than idealized perfection. This approach fosters self-compassion, as the transcript emphasizes. If you expect teachers to rise above all of that, you might start believing you're unfit for the path when you make your own mistakes. When you judge a teacher's impatience, you might also judge your own. Instead, see their flaws as part of the human process, as Anatta teaches. You might reflect, their impatience is a moment, not their essence. just like mine. This aligns with the transcript's wisdom. Awakening doesn't mean never falling. It means seeing clearly when you don't. In daily life, learning from imperfect teachers and communities manifests in small acts of discernment. When a teacher snaps, pause, notice your disappointment, and think, this is their humanity, and I can still learn. In a Sangha conflict, like a disagreement over group decisions, listen without rushing to judge, recognizing it as a chance to practice patience. As the transcript notes, the path is not about becoming perfect, it's about waking up to what is real. Even in personal practice, when you falter, recall the teacher's imperfections and think, I'm learning too. This fosters compassion, as the transcript suggests. You don't need a perfect guide. You need your own honesty. This practice requires humility, as the transcript emphasizes. Some teachers model that return. They admit when they've harmed. They listen. The Buddha's journey reflects this. He faced his own doubts as Siddhartha, learning from imperfect attempts at asceticism, leading to awakening. As the transcript states, the Dharma lives beyond titles, beyond robes, beyond credentials. Tonight, as you rest, let this guide you. Imperfect teachers and communities are not barriers, but mirrors of your own path. By learning with discernment, you find peace not in their perfection but in your presence, blooming in the mud of shared humanity. Dukkha and the pressure of perfection. The Buddhist concept of dukkha, often translated as suffering but encompassing the subtle satisfactoriness of life, reveals the profound pain caused by the pressure to be perfect. As the transcript poignantly states, dukkha is not punishment. It's not a flaw in you. It is the tension created when you resist reality. This tension arises when we cling to ideals of flawlessness in ourselves, others, or life, believing that peace requires perfection. Dukkha teaches that this pressure is not a personal failing, but a universal experience, and by facing it with honesty, we can soften its grip, fostering compassion for ourselves and others. Embracing dukkha as a teacher allows us to release the illusion of perfection, finding freedom in the interdependent reality of shared imperfection. The transcript captures this dynamic. It points to the friction between life as it is and life as we want it to be. Consider a moment when you felt the weight of perfectionism, perhaps striving to excel at work, while feeling inadequate for not meeting every expectation. The mind whispers, I should be better by now, creating a sense of failure. Dukkha reveals that this suffering stems from resisting the reality of your limitations. In meditation, you might sit with this pressure, noticing the tightness in your chest, and think, this is dukkha, and I can see it clearly. As the transcript notes, when you turn toward that tightness, you start to see the attachment underneath, transforming the pressure into an opportunity for insight. This perspective aligns with the Buddhist principle of anatta, no self, which sees the self as a fluid process, not a fixed entity to perfect. The transcript states, the shoulds are often invisible, passed down by family, culture, teachers, even your own ideals. When we cling to expectations like always being calm or successful, we suffer when life diverges, such as during a moment of anger or failure. Dukkha invites us to pause, breathe, and observe the expectation, I must be perfect. For example, if you feel inadequate after a parenting mistake, you might reflect, This guilt is dukkha, not proof I'm a bad parent. As the transcript suggests, acceptance here is not passive, it's powerful, dissolving the tension of perfectionism. Mindfulness amplifies this release, supported by the transcript's neuroplasticity insight. Awareness isn't just calming, it's rewiring. By observing dukkha without judgment, we rewire our brain to let go of perfectionist ideals. Imagine feeling anxious about a looming deadline, pressured to perform flawlessly. Instead of spiraling into self-criticism, you sit mindfully, noting the racing thoughts, and whisper, "This is dukkha, and it's okay." Over time, this practice builds neural pathways that ease the need for perfection, aligning with the transcript's point. When you accept that something is imperfect, you stop demanding that it conform to your ideas. This rewiring transforms dukkha from a burden to a teacher, guiding us toward freedom. The bodhicitta path integrates dukkha by fostering compassion through shared suffering. The transcript's image of the bodhisattva, "I know what that feels like, let me walk beside you," applies here. When you face your own dukkha, like the shame of a failed goal, you see it in others. Sharing this vulnerably, like telling a friend, "I felt like a failure too, but I'm learning it's not all I am," invites them to release their own pressure. As the transcript notes, when you see that clearly, your heart opens, creating a space where imperfection is safe. This mirrors kintsugi, where golden seams honor cracks, connecting us through shared dukkha rather than idealized perfection. Dukkha also fosters self-compassion, as the transcript emphasizes, "Speak gently to yourself, as if everyone is holding something fragile because they are." When you feel the pressure of perfection, like guilt for not being productive enough, dukkha invites you to name it honestly. "This is pressure, not my worth." You might journal, "I'm struggling, and that's human." This aligns with the transcript's wisdom. That's how compassion deepens, not from effort, but from understanding. In moments of physical struggle, like exhaustion, dukkha reminds you that striving for perfection isn't the answer, rest is. As the transcript notes, rest is resistance, a way of saying, "I am already enough." In daily life, facing dukkha manifests in small acts of honesty. When perfectionism arises, say, during a stressful project, pause, notice the tension, and think, "This is dukkha, and I don't need to be perfect." This aligns with the transcript's call to stop exhausting yourself in the pursuit of what can't be held. In relationships, dukkha softens judgment. When a friend snaps under pressure, recognize their dukkha as universal, not personal. As the transcript notes, everyone suffers. Most people are clinging to something they believe will save them. Offering patience fosters connection. Even in joy, dukkha reminds you it's fleeting, grounding your happiness in reality. This practice requires humility, as the transcript emphasizes. When you forget, return to the breath. The Buddha's journey reflects this. Facing dukkha as Siddhartha, he saw the tension of perfectionism leading to awakening. As the transcript states, dukkha is not your enemy, it's a mirror. Tonight, as you rest, let dukkha guide you. Your pressure to be perfect is not a flaw but a teacher. By facing it with honesty, you find peace not in flawlessness but in presence, blooming in the shared mud of interdependent humanity. Metta for the inner critic and self-kindness. The Buddhist practice of metta, or loving kindness, offers a gentle yet powerful antidote to the inner critic, that relentless voice that judges our imperfections and demands flawlessness. As the transcript profoundly states, applying metta to this voice does not mean agreeing with it. It means seeing it clearly, understanding where it came from, meeting it with patience, not resistance. The inner critic, fueled by the pressure to be perfect, traps us in a cycle of self-blame. But metta transforms this by fostering self-kindness, allowing us to meet our flaws with compassion rather than judgment. By extending metta to the critic within, we cultivate a heart that embraces imperfection, deepening our connection to ourselves and others in the interdependent web of humanity. The transcript captures the critic's role, the perfectionist within, the one that never rests, that measures your worth in results, believes it is helping, but it doesn't understand the harm it causes. Consider a moment when the critic attacks, perhaps after forgetting an important task, whispering, "You're so irresponsible." This voice, rooted in early experiences of shame or pressure, feels like truth. But metta invites you to see it as a habit, not reality. In meditation, you might sit with the critic's words, notice the tension they create, and offer, "May I be kind to myself." As the transcript notes, kindness is not weakness, it's strength in another form, softening the critic's grip and opening space for self-compassion. This practice aligns with the Buddhist principle of dukkha, the suffering caused by clinging to ideals of perfection. The transcript states, "The inner critic is often formed early. It becomes your own, not because you chose it, but because it felt familiar." When we believe the critic's narrative like, "I should be better," we deepen dukkha. Metta counters this by meeting the critic with understanding, not resistance. For example, if you feel guilt for a parenting mistake, pause, breathe and say, "This is the critic, and I meet it with kindness." This aligns with the transcript's wisdom. You don't have to fake sweetness. Metta isn't about pretending, it's about truthfulness, allowing you to hold the guilt gently as a fleeting thought, not a verdict. Mindfulness amplifies metta, supported by the transcript's neuroplasticity insight. The brain changes through repetition. Each time you pause the critic and bring in kindness, you form a new connection. By meeting the critic with metta, we rewire our brain to favor compassion over judgment. Imagine feeling inadequate after a work error. Instead of agreeing with the critic's, "You're not good enough," you pause, notice the thought, and offer, "May I be well." Over time, this practice builds neural pathways that weaken the critic's power, aligning with the transcript's point. It becomes less convincing, less sharp, less constant. This rewiring transforms self-blame into self-kindness, fostering a heart that embraces imperfection. The bodhicitta path integrates metta by extending this kindness to others. The transcript's image of the bodhisattva, "I know what that feels like, let me walk beside you," reflects this. When you offer metta to your own critic, you see others' struggles with their inner voices. Sharing this, like telling a friend, "I struggle with self-criticism too, but I'm learning to be kind," invites them to do the same. As the transcript notes, when your inner voice softens, your outer voice does too, creating a space where imperfection is safe. This mirrors kintsugi, where golden seams honor cracks, connecting us through shared compassion rather than perfected selves. Metta fosters deep self-compassion, as the transcript emphasizes. You stop being the one who judges yourself and become the one who cares for the one who is judged. When the critic attacks, like after a social blunder, Metta invites you to respond with, "May I forgive myself for this moment?" You might journal, "This mistake doesn't define me. I'm worthy of care." This aligns with the transcript's wisdom. You don't have to earn your worth. You are already enough to care for. In moments of physical struggle, like fatigue, Metta encourages rest, saying, "May I be gentle with my body," countering the critic's demand for productivity. In daily life, Metta manifests in small acts of kindness. When the critic arises, say, after missing a deadline, pause, notice its harsh tone, and offer, "May I be kind to myself." This aligns with the transcript's call to replace the inner commentary of criticism with phrases that are gentle. In relationships, Metta softens judgment. When a friend falters, recognize their inner critic and offer patience, perhaps saying, "It's okay, we all struggle." As the transcript notes, this softens community. It builds trust. Even in joy, Metta grounds you, allowing you to savor it with kindness, free from the critic's pressure to achieve more. This practice requires humility, as the transcript emphasizes. You choose which voice to strengthen. The Buddha's journey reflects this. Facing his inner doubts with compassionate presence, he transformed them into awakening. As the transcript states, you say, "Thank you for trying to protect me, but I no longer need to be perfect." Tonight, as you rest, let Metta guide you. Your inner critic is not your enemy, but a habit to meet with kindness. By offering self-compassion, you free yourself from perfection's chains, blooming in the shared mud of interdependent humanity. Interdependence, accepting flaws in shared humanity. The Buddhist teaching of interdependence reveals that our lives are woven together in a web of shared humanity, where accepting the flaws of others and ourselves fosters profound connection and liberation. As the transcript eloquently states, interdependence teaches that there is no solid line between you and the other. Their suffering is not foreign. It is made of the same elements. Clinging to perfection in ourselves or others creates separation, but recognizing our shared imperfections dissolves this illusion, cultivating compassion rooted in the truth that everyone is shaped by the same conditions of dukkha. By embracing interdependence, we transform judgment into curiosity, finding peace in the messy, interconnected reality of human existence. The transcript captures this insight. When you let go of the illusion of separateness, you begin to dissolve the illusion of the separate self. Consider a moment when you judged someone's flaw, perhaps a friend's impatience during a stressful conversation. The instinct is to see their behavior as separate, defining them as wrong. Interdependence invites you to pause and recognize their impatience as a reflection of shared human struggles, perhaps stress or fear, emotions you've felt too. In meditation, you might sit with your judgment, notice its tension, and think, "This is their dukkha, and it's like mine." As the transcript notes, every person becomes a mirror, showing that their flaws, like yours, are part of the same human tapestry. This perspective aligns with anatta, no self, which sees all beings as fluid processes, not fixed entities. The transcript states, Others are not fixed characters in your story. They are beings in process just like you. When we judge others' imperfections, like a colleague's mistake or a stranger's rudeness, we reinforce a sense of separateness. Interdependence reframes their actions as moments shaped by conditions, not their essence. For example, if a co-worker snaps, you might pause, breathe, and ask, what might they be carrying? This aligns with the transcript's call to ask what might they be carrying that I can't see, fostering curiosity over judgment and softening the need to see others as perfect. Mindfulness deepens this practice, supported by the transcript's neuroplasticity insight. Awareness isn't just calming, it's rewiring. By observing judgments with awareness, we rewire our brain to embrace interdependence. Imagine feeling irritated by a friend's oversight. Instead of labeling them thoughtless, you sit mindfully, noting the irritation, and offer, "This is a shared human moment." Over time, this builds neural pathways that favor compassion, aligning with the transcript's point. You stop building your identity around rejection. This rewiring transforms judgment into connection, recognizing that their suffering is not foreign, as the transcript suggests, fostering a heart that sees flaws as shared, not separate. The bodhicitta path integrates interdependence by turning acceptance of flaws into compassion. The transcript's image of the bodhisattva, "I know what that feels like, let me walk beside you," reflects this. When you accept your own imperfections, like a moment of anger, you extend this to others. Sharing vulnerably, like telling a friend, "I got frustrated too, but it's part of being human," invites them to embrace their flaws. As the transcript notes, you stop needing them to act a certain way to make you feel okay, creating a space where imperfections are safe. This mirrors kintsugi, where golden seams honor cracks, weaving us together through shared humanity. Interdependence also fosters self-compassion, as the transcript emphasizes. You stop using someone else's faults to feel more secure in your sense of self. When you judge another's flaw, like a partner's impatience, you might also judge your own. Interdependence invites you to see both as part of the same web. You might reflect, "Their impatience and mine are moments, not who we are." This aligns with the transcript's wisdom. You don't need them to be perfect. You just want them to be real. In moments of personal struggle, like self-doubt, interdependence reminds you that your flaws are shared, easing the pressure to be flawless and encouraging kindness. As the transcript notes, you let them be human too. In daily life, interdependence manifests in small acts of acceptance. When a friend disappoints you, pause, notice your judgment, and think, "This is their humanity, like mine." This aligns with the transcript's call to see yourself not as a fixed self, but as a part of something fluid. In community, interdependence softens conflict. During a disagreement, listen with curiosity, recognizing shared dukkha. As the transcript notes, this recognition is the beginning of community. Even in joy, interdependence grounds you, reminding you that happiness is shared, not solitary. Offering a kind word to a struggling stranger connects you through mutual imperfection. This practice requires humility. As the transcript emphasizes, presence allows you to hold complexity. The Buddha's journey reflects this. As Siddhartha, he saw his struggles and others as interconnected, leading to awakening. As the transcript states, Awakening is no longer a private project. It becomes a shared unfolding. Tonight, as you rest, let interdependence guide you. Your flaws and others are not barriers but threads in a shared web. By accepting them, you find peace not in perfection but in connection, blooming in the shared mud of humanity, embracing the beauty of your unfinished journey. As you lie down tonight, let the wisdom of these Buddhist teachings settle into your heart like a gentle breeze, carrying away the weight of perfectionism and revealing the radiant truth beneath. You are enough, exactly as you are. The path you've explored through failure, scars, and the fluid nature of self is not about arriving at a flawless destination, but about awakening to the beauty of each imperfect moment. Every stumble, every raw emotion, every moment of doubt or joy is a golden thread in the kintsugi of your life, weaving a story that shines not despite its cracks, but because of them. This is the heart of the Dharma, a call to live fully, to love deeply, and to rest in the truth that your humanity is sacred. The transcript's promise resonates. You don't have to be perfect to be worthy of peace. Let this be your anchor as you move forward. You don't need to fix every flaw or resolve every pain to find freedom. Instead, embrace each experience with presence, knowing that your struggles are not failures but teachers, guiding you toward a heart that is open, resilient, and kind. In the quiet of this moment, feel the spaciousness of your own unfolding, each breath a new beginning, each imperfection a stroke of beauty in the artwork of your life. As you walk this path, know that you're not alone. Your journey is interwoven with others, connected through the shared humanity of imperfection. Every act of kindness you offer yourself, every pause to breathe, every moment of patience ripples outward, creating space for others to do the same. The transcript reminds us, the path continues, and you never have to walk it alone. So, carry this truth forward. Your flaws are not barriers but bridges, inviting connection, compassion, and growth. Let your heart soften, your breath deepen, and your spirit rest in the knowledge that you are already whole. Tonight, as you close your eyes, release the need to be anything other than what you are. Celebrate your imperfections as sacred marks of a life fully lived. Trust that every step, however small, is enough. Keep returning to this moment, to this breath, to this beautiful, unfinished you. Sleep deeply, live gently, and let your journey unfold with grace.